Happy holidays, people! We're officially on Christmas break. I'm going to complain about Knox County Schools and the way they do attendance policy on days before breaks. Among other things, we're Almost Agreement, almostagreement@gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Go to the website, almostagreement.com. Check out the cool stuff you guys go in there. Hollaroo 25 is on schedule. April 12th, mark your calendars. Vendors, racers, rock and roll stars, if you want anything, shoot us an email and we'll start working on fill in all the pieces and parts of that thing, and we want you to be a part of it. Go to your favorite podcast provider, like us there, friend us, follow us, share us, whatever you could do to get the word out to other people to check us out and do what we're doing. We're going to keep rocking on our show, and we've got some fun stuff to talk about this week, both local and national. And we'll start wherever Sam tells me to. So anyway, we're going to get the podcast intro out of the way, and then we're going to start doing the show. How about Day?
Hey.
What's new with ya?
Not much.
All right. As the intro stated, you're going to start the show today. What do we got?
All right, well, we're going to start with a lovely recipe we just came up with.
Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah, please. What are we making tonight?
I'm not going to go with that.
Let's do a cooking show. All right, so my recipe is you put a nice quality Plantaray rum. It's now called Plantaray. It was formerly Plantation rum, if you guys are any rum people out there. Plantaray 5-year in the glass with ice, and that's my recipe. Congratulations, you know how to make a rum drink.
Cheers.
Okay, so I complained about it before. This is one of my little pitch and fits that happens at the end of every semester. Is this tacit, not fully explicit understanding that certain days just don't count at Knox County Schools, and so they didn't go to school today. And I'm upset because when they asked me last week, I said, yeah, you're going to school. It says it's a school day. You go to school. And they're like, but teacher says we're not doing anything, they're not counting attendance or anything. It's like, okay. You're still it's on the calendar as a school day, you're going to school. Why do I need to argue about this? What pisses me off about it is that they are explicitly telling the kids all these different things, that we're not doing anything important, we're not taking attendance, it's not going to count against anything, blah, 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 blah. The only reason it's on the calendar is because the state requires them to have it on the calendar. But they don't take attendance. So I don't really understand how all that works. So anyway, we happened to be at a meeting with and the 6th grade administrator principal was there, and we were in a section of the meeting where it was kind of, everybody was chirping around, and I was just like, hey, let me ask you a question real fast. Now, this is going to be hard to get to portray across the podcast. You can help me explain this to people while I visually show you what happened. I says, hey, they're telling me that they don't need to be at school on Friday.
Yeah.
And she says,
with those aggressive hand gestures.
No, and she says, yes, they must come to school tomorrow. Yes, we are taking attendance. Right. Now, can you help the people understand what just happened?
Shaking the head at the same time. Was that what they were literally doing?
Yes, literally saying, yes, you must be at school tomorrow. Yes, we are taking attendance.
Was the meeting you were at?
Yes, this is this is our principal telling me these things, but showing me as well. So if you can help the people understand what just happened, because I don't know how to explain what I just did.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know how? Okay. My best attempt is, like, the entire time this person is saying yes to me, they're adamantly locked eyes with me and shaking their head no. Which is that old school wink and a nod. No, we're not. No, right. No, don't come to school tomorrow.
What was the meeting for originally?
Had nothing to do with that, nor is it important to the story.
Gotcha.
It wasn't like disciplinary or anything like that. It was just to decide.
Oh, so it was like a bigger group meeting.
No, it was just me. It was just me and the missus and a couple of teachers and a principal.
Right. Yeah, I don't get it. It's weird.
So apparently next year's schedule, because there's a formula to the schedule that the state requires them to use. Next year, going into winter break, the last day of school will be a half day Monday. So it'll be go to school Friday, have Saturday, Sunday off like a normal weekend, and then come back for a half day Monday to then break for Christmas. Break for winter break.
I think a lot of times through school we had half day like right before Thanksgiving break. I don't remember like a half day before, but I remember like pretty much like that day and like the day before Christmas break, a lot of people didn't show up because a lot of people would take that as an advantage, and their parents was to get out of town like an extra day earlier.
Right. Sure. Which, okay, that's fine. Like, to me, if you want to skip a day of school as a parent because you want to go out of town, that's fine with me. I have no complaints on that. But I shouldn't be punished for sending my kids to school on a scheduled school day with a bunch of flack from my kids or anything like that. You and your kids should be punished for skipping a school day.
Right.
That's how I see it. And it's to say it's not dissimilar to my complaint at the end of the actual school year when my older one's talking about how his teachers are telling him they're not doing anything tomorrow. They're not doing anything for the rest of the whatever. And like days and days before the end of the semester. Like, I don't appreciate, this is totally selfish. I get it, but I don't appreciate having to argue with my kids on why they have to go to school because their teachers are telling them they're not.
Right.
I don't appreciate having to justify to my children why I think it's important that you go to school when their teachers are telling them it's not.
Right.
And so, like, any kind of, like, it sucks because we fucking caved and we let them to not go to school today. But now I feel like any chance I have of any kind of authority over, I don't know. Like, I don't know. You're just going to school today. I'm not going to argue with you about it. You don't just get to skip a day because you don't feel like it or your teachers say it's not important. It's important to me. I have other stuff to do. I have a million things going on. I don't care. It doesn't matter. You're going to school today. Like, I shouldn't have to make that fucking argument because the teachers say otherwise.
Right. Teach them to make it fun.
Right. Because one of the people at this little meeting also was like, give the teachers a day off. They're about to have 2 fucking weeks off. They don't need an extra day off. Made me angry. Anyway, that's my rant on that one.
Gotcha. I can feel your pain on it. It can be very frustrating as a parent.
Yeah, it is very, 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 very frustrating as a parent. So yeah, that's that thing. I don't know what else is up this week. There's some kind of general planning stuff, nothing crazy. There was one county commission this week, like the same company, which it always like. The only reason I remember the developer's name is because they're the same people that make the voting machines Dominion. I don't know that they're the same people, but they use the same name at least. Dominion Properties or something like that is wanting to take the development they were planning in Choteau that got eaten up and destroyed by the local neighbors for a subsidized or low-income housing complex or whatever, and they're now basically moving that format up to the other one. Where AC's house is now, northwest. I just blanked out on the
Gibbs.
No, the bigger one. West Hills. No, the gotta go to school. Huh?
Holston.
No, the one that's new, like the new big where everybody's going. This is bad. On the way up Pillissippi, Hardin Valley.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I was really struggling there. Apparently, this Dominion company wants to put one in Hardin Valley, and it got approved by commission with a bunch of pushback from the anti-development set of the commission, which is normal, so nothing new. But it did get approved by commission. As apparently, there's some neat research on it. That because one of the complaints from neighbors is I don't want poor people that do crime moving into a neighborhood right next to me because it's a whatever.
Right.
But there is some research that shows that like people that get into some of these low income housing places that are inside of a more affluent neighborhoods or sections of town or whatever, that generally those families actually catch up to the affluency instead of just staying low income. Like there's stories, and a couple of them are local, whereas there's a family that was making their total income annually was $5,000 a year. That's all that's all like food stamps or whatever. Like that's all they got. That their household income jumped to $50,000 after a couple of years living in one of these places. Another one was where the family essentially got kicked out of their apartment because they were making too much money to be eligible for the low-income housing facility that they were in, because since they lived out there, they looked for jobs close to home, and some of the jobs that were close to home are high-paying jobs, blah blah blah, stuff like that. So it's a general come up for people when they mix them up instead of shoving all the poor people in one side of town and keeping all the rich people on the other.
I can see a few different factors kind of influencing that.
I mean, I'm
they're getting a nicer living arrangements at a subsidized rate, so they're able to kind of catch up a little bit more on, what debt they had. Then, like you said, they're able to find, jobs closer to that may be slightly higher paying.
Right. Kids are going to better schools, just like some sort of pride in what you're living in and where you're living at and all that kind of stuff. Kind of makes sense to lean into that kind of stuff too. But I mean, even if you're in the service industry and those, like if you work at a restaurant as a server, you want to work at a restaurant on the rich side, where the people that come out to eat and stuff spend more, therefore tip more. You don't want to work at a diner in the, on the edge of the bad part of town because less people frequent that place, and the people that do don't spend as much money as. So even on the lower end of the employment spectrum, you still make more money as a service worker in more affluent neighborhoods.
Possibly.
Because I would think that even the nice restaurants like Bistro, which is took over the Orangery, where the Orangery used to be.
I think I heard something about that.
Like when the Orangery was there, like that was it was back in 2000, it was like a $50, $60 plate dinner. Well, if you're a good server, you're going to turn over your tables and do what you do like any other server. But your average table is going to be a $400 table, where if you're making good 15, 20%, and you do but you only do 2 tables a night, you're still going to make hundreds of dollars a night, as opposed to having to do 50 tables and do all the crazy stuff in a more high-paced restaurant like other places.
Yeah, I was about to say, a fine dining, you're not turning over tables as fast. Right. Because that's when you get into like 4 and 5 course.
Right, but you get like 2 or 3 tables a night, but they're $5 and $6 and $700 tables instead of trying to squeeze through 10 $50 tables or whatever at the same window. So anyway, point is, apparently it's good for people, which does bring me to what I've like the epiphany that I had with the missus while we were driving around the other day. There's some math on this. There's some different economists have gone on this. I talked to Scott about it. Scott had some good points as well. But I look around and I think to myself a lot while I'm doing stuff in Knoxville. I'm like, where do these people have the money to do these things? Like the median income in Knox County has gone up, but the median household, so that's usually a 2-income household, but the median household in Knox County is like $70,000 a year.
I have that thought all the time. See these commercials, and I'm like, it's advertising for expensive stuff that most people, I think, can't afford.
Well, and it's like I don't know if it's true or not. Like I made a joke like 3 years ago to the kids, maybe 4 years ago, is that house on the corner of Morrell and Westland. That's always been like they've always done a really big light display every year. I joked one day because it was not long after we'd moved out here and the kids and all that kind of stuff. And I just kind of made the joke one day. It's like, maybe this guy that owns that company that does Christmas lights for people. And he's just kind of using his own house as an advertisement for his company because it's at a prominent spot. People drive by there all the time. I kind of said that as a joke then, but part of that is like I thought that was a crazy business idea to think that something like that could really work. Like that you could professionally operate I'll decorate your house for you business.
Oh, I could totally see that.
I could, but
there's a lot of people that are like, gosh, I got to go put the lights up. They're like, wait, there's a company that will come out with ladders and do all this shit for me?
But like as a person, and this is as a person with your household budget, like where's the line of how much you're willing to spend because you don't want to do that thing? And how much is it keeping up with the Joneses because your neighbor's lights are bigger than yours and stuff like that? I get all that as part of the game here.
Right.
But it's just like there's got to be like some perceived value at play that you have as an individual that says it is worth $500 for me to have them put up a modest light show. I would guess it's probably not cheap by any stretch. Just doing like a house border and maybe a couple bushes is probably at least a couple $100 a year.
Probably.
And do they come back and take it down as part of the deal, or is that an additional fee?
I'm sure they offer it, but I'm sure it's probably an additional fee.
And then the bigger the show, the more lights they do, the more it costs, kind of stuff. It's like, but where's that line? Like, how much? Like that's a question I would like to ask somebody paying for this. Like, yes, it sucks to do it. You don't have to do it. It's not like if you didn't do your lights, it would be the end of the world, right? So you don't want to do a thing that you don't have to do. So how much you're willing to spend on something you don't want to do that you don't have to do just to get it done?
I'd say some people do the maths, and some people that, in high-paying lawyer jobs or whatever, they're like, this could potentially cost me that much more money.
Right.
Or stock traders, if I'm not on the computer,
Right. But I bring
trading, I could be possibly losing money.
But I bring that all around to that now there's like 5 companies in Knoxville that do it.
Right.
Now, I'm curious if this is something that, because it might be one that it's like a landscape company that during the spring
I'd say
and summer and fall they do landscaping, and they have a different brand that they put their lighting crew under.
Right, but they've got box trucks that they can use.
Right, but it's still, it's Billy's Landscaping Company with a magnet over the Billy's Landscaping that says, Bill's Lights.
Right.
Which that makes a little bit of sense, because then it's kind of a sunk cost game and you've already got a lot of the stuff, but you still got to buy the lights and stuff. Anyway, the moral, this got to be all thinking about, what if, I see, I drive around and I understand that I live in the quote unquote better part, but not the best part, but the better part of Knox County, one of the better sections of Knox County. I'm actually this neighborhood's like a little poor neighborhood in the middle of a bunch of not poor neighborhoods, but, what I see, my neighbors, some of my neighbors in my neighborhood with a Range Rover and a Lexus in the front yard, and their house, it's stuff like that. In this neighborhood, it's I look around and I don't understand how people are making this much money, because I've talked about it on the show before. It's I don't make ridiculous sums of money, but I make pretty good money when I feel poor. I certainly don't feel wealthy enough that I can drive my 4Runner and buy my wife a Lexus and pay somebody to do our Christmas lights. I don't feel like that's a position I'm in, and I think I make pretty good money. I make well over, I individually, because that's how we're chosen to do our household, I individually make more than the median Knox County income. And it's not me trying to brag, it's me trying to understand how this fucking works. Right. How, and so one of the things that's truly the truth in play, and there's different arguments for whys, but one of the things is the normalization of women in the workforce. That is part of the things that gets weird in this conversation. Because I think part of it is we've normalized that both mom and dad work because they need to work or whatever, and that normalization has become, well, it's weird if mom doesn't work. So even though, quote unquote, the income's good enough for a functional household, they both work anyway. Not to say that one or the other should be the one working, just that, dad's making 180 and mom's making 210. That's fucking good money. That's, almost combined 400 between the two of them. It's really good money. Well, one of them could not work and they're still making more than twice the fucking county average if they wanted to. But I think it's just gotten normal that mom and dad work. And so the idea that one does and one doesn't work is more of an oddity than it is a normality. But the necessity for it's the question I have. Is there a necessity for their income, or are they spending what they make because they make it? I don't know. Those are the questions I have, because I am not that household.
I'd say more often than not, most people kind of adjust their spending to their income.
That's agreed.
And sadly, more often than not, people are overspending than what they're making.
Right. But I think that's my point, though, is I think, yes, that we have, 2 income households that are making 150, 200 plus a year each that are trying is not the word I mean, but that are spending to the level of income, and maybe even beyond it, because that's what we do as Americans. We spend more than we have. But when you get up to making $400,000 or $500,000 a year, how do you spend $500,000 a year? You pay somebody to do your Christmas lights. You pay somebody to mow your lawn. You pay somebody for this. You buy a new Lexus every other year. Right. This is how you get there. So who are these people? The other part of it too is that is this one of the things that the industry side does to suppress wages long term, knowing that there's a second working adult in the household. I don't feel like I need to pay you as much because I know your wife works too.
You think there's employers that do that?
I don't necessarily think that, but that is something that Scott pointed out to me. It's his thought on it. It's which
I mean, there should. I can't think of too many situations to where your bosses know how much your wife makes. I mean, they could assume maybe,
right?
If you're like, hey, my wife's a doctor.
Well, it's just it's just that I know you. Maybe it's not even that I know you're even married or any of that parts of play, but I assume I think it goes back to my earlier point, though. It's like there's this kind of, it's become the cultural norm that households are two income. And so if I know households are two income and I know you have the specialty and the skills to do the job I want, I don't have to pay you enough to make sure you can live. I just have to pay you half as much as that, because I know that the normal cultural feel is that's what is normal. Because normally you would have somebody else with you to help you pay your bills. Where if single income was more normal, like more normal like it was historically, I, as the manager, theoretically, this is my guess at what Scott was hitting on, so I don't know. But my manager, as a manager, I'd be like, well, I need you because you have the skills and whatever to do this job. I have to pay you enough so you can live here and do the job. So I'm going to pay you a single wage that's enough to cover, rent and food and at least basics and stuff like that. Some of the calculation into how I'm going to set your wage is off of what you need to stay local to work for me. And if I have the public argument of I can half that because theoretically you should have another half because that's the social norm, then that's what they do. That's the idea, at least. I don't know. I'd have to look more into that. Because the other part,
I don't see it.
Well, the other part too is that by normalizing women in the workforce, which again, I'm not trying to say they shouldn't be in the workforce. I mean, be real clear about this argument.
Sounds like it.
But by normalizing women in the workforce, we have significantly increased the number of employees available. The supply of employees goes ways up, and so
it's just weird that you keep referring to it as normalizing.
How would you
normalizing women working?
How would you refer to the change from the 70s to today in work in the demographics of workforce?
I'd say there's more women in the workforce, yes, but I don't know if I would just call it like normalizing.
Okay, that's the phrase that I kind of feel like is accurate for what we're talking about.
I guess my mind immediately goes back to more recent talks of kind of trying to go against
revert back
to, yes.
I mean, there's argument to be made. I'm not saying I agree with set arguments, but there's argument to be made, and I do think one of them is that and this is the one that's interesting to me, is because Tennessee has functionally, statistically zero unemployment. It's been that way for years. There are jobs that companies in Tennessee have been trying to hire people for years and years and years, and the only way they're doing it is importing people from other states because our education system doesn't put people in place, blah, blah, blah. And so that kind of flies theoretically in the face of my argument for the supply and demand issue. But then the other side of that argument too, it's like, well, if you need an employee so bad and the local education system isn't getting you people capable of it, then hire and teach them. Why does the state or university have to be your trainer for your job?
So yeah, I did see an article recently. I want to say that there were some companies that were trying to go or starting to try some kind of like a apprenticeship type program, but a lot of companies, were kind of weary of the kind of costs because there is no guarantee,
right?
Really,
and I could see this. This is one of those things I can see from other. Like one of the things that Joel Max's dad said to me once. If you remember, listeners, he's an old school union guy, really funny. He's super Republican, but he's also super union, which is this weird little dichotomy of a man. But he was kind of complaining from his union perspective, not union perspective at large, which is him personally, that the outsourcing of training to public schools, public universities, or private universities for that matter, he thought was always kind of weird. He's like, why is John? Because I think it was John Deere when he was in Iowa. I don't know. We'll just say John Deere. I don't know if it's true or not. But when he was a union rep for John Deere employees, and when he lived in Iowa or whatever, they had whole programs at the University of Iowa and Iowa State and other universities that were training people to come in and work the factory, work the offices at the John Deere plant in Iowa. And he's like, why doesn't John Deere just train them and teach them themselves? Why are we off? He just thought that was always kind of a weird thing. It's like, you pay to go somewhere else and get trained to do the job for me. Why don't I pay for your training and you just come do the job for me? Why are we doing all this other stuff?
I don't know if I would quite call the public school system essentially training someone to then, in your instance, working for John Deere. That's not what the public school system's for. I mean, in a general sense, yes, you're trying to I would educate people that
we do it here not for John Deere, obviously, but we do it here in that they do vocational programs that they partner with local industry on curricula, and some of that's for sure because it's like I'm trying to think, like Denso, we'll go back to Denso, we talked about that, like Denso does a partnership with Maryville Schools for their vocational program, because then they get tools and equipment and stuff that the school system can't necessarily afford, because Denso's providing it for the classroom. And stuff like that.
I was unaware they did
I don't
that.
know if they do that or not. I'm just saying
I thought you said they were.
That's a theoretical example of how some of these partnership works, because it is something the schools can get their hands on, better equipment, more modern stuff to train the kids and teach the kids how more modern things work.
Well, I wonder if the reluctance of some of that
But I think higher ed is more what he was focusing on than regular public schools. I did say public schools on my list. I just want to clear that.
Okay, gotcha. That's where I was hearing it from. But I wonder if some of that reluctance is, we're less apt to have, we've had Alcoa, nearby for decades now, but I think we're seeing less and less of, like, those major companies that have a factory that stays there for a long time.
Right. And
you see a lot of factories that either get moved to another state or, moved to another country.
Right. But whether the factory comes or goes or not, in the other side of it too is that it is, again, on societal norms. Like our parents' generation, like my dad worked for the same company from when he left college all the way until he was technically retirement eligible, but he changed jobs a couple times in like the last 10 years of his career.
Right.
But of his, like he came back from Vietnam and he was in his lower 20s, and so he worked for International Harvester's Case from his early 20s to his late 40s, maybe even 50, before he left Case. And that's fairly normal for our parents' generation.
I don't know if I call it normal. It wasn't abnormal, but I wouldn't quite call it the norm. It was more common than it is now, but
I think it was.
I don't know if I would go so far as to call it like the norm then.
I think I would say it was greater than half of the boomers, if they stayed worked for the same company for the vast majority of their career. I would think that's normal. Where I don't know. I've been an adult worker for 25 years now, and I've worked for, I don't know, I can't count that high. I've worked for at least 10, 15 different companies in that time frame.
Yeah.
On different levels and different places and different stuff and this and the other. Now, I may not be the greatest example, like, because I didn't technically use my degree and stuff like that, but even people that I know that I went to school with who got a degree in the thing, they worked for a company that used the skills they learned in college, worked for them for 4 or 5 years, and then took a job with a different company that did the same thing, and then took a job with a different company that did the same thing. And so they were, again, same time frame. They've been in the workforce for 20, 25 years and have worked for 5 or 6 companies doing theoretically the same job, or at least a seniored version of the same job as they transfer, but they're transferring out of companies to get promotions. They're not getting promoted within as much as we used to do.
Right.
I think is the point. That's another thing to me that is probably part of what's artificially keeping wages down, because people, like that seniority thing that you've done good work for the company for a long time, raise every 2-5 years or whatever it is. It's
cheaper to hire a younger person in a semi-prestigious job to make a little bit less.
Maybe. Or why would I give you a raise when you are going to quit tomorrow to take another job from somebody else anyway? I think it's the same thing. It works both ways. I'm not saying that I'm trying to just point out that it works both ways, not that one's right or wrong. Does that make sense? I think when workers are shopping jobs, why would it be incumbent on the employer to stop them from doing so? It's like, well, if you're going to shop jobs, that's cool, then I'm going to hire other people to do your job. That's just to me, that's like the mutual exchange of play. It's like, if you're loyal to me, I'll be loyal to you. But if, and I don't know, it's chicken or the egg game. Somebody started it, and it became more and more normal over time.
Yeah.
But it definitely seems pretty normal over time.
I've known a few people's, parents that got close to retirement age and then, got that pink slip.
Yeah. It happens. I mean, that's part of why I like to, I don't ever want to work for somebody again. But if I do, I like that. I don't know. Nobody owes me anything per se, but I also don't want to be in a position where I'm dependent at that level where it's like, fuck, I have no options here. And, I'm 55 years old and I'm going out trying to find a job, which is probably why we see all these old people working at the grocery stores, pushing carts and bagging. Like I noticed that a couple years ago. A lot more what I would think are elderly people work in grocery stores.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that
used to be our friends in high school, checking out and bagging groceries.
Right. There's a good bit of the kind of retirement age people that literally can't afford to retire. They've got to go back to work. Yep. Either the Social Security wasn't as much as they thought it was going to be, or retirements, they're burning through it faster than they thought they were going to, or ran into health bills, etc.
Yep. All those things combined. It's a tough world out there. I don't know what to do. Fix it, Sam, right now.
Okay.
Tell me how to fix it. I'll tell you what, Austin gets me in so much trouble. I get to talking to him and I lose it. Like, I spent like an hour and a half talking politics with him the other day. And I was like, I was supposed to just drop some stuff off and go. I had somewhere to be. It wasn't like anything important to be. But like this morning, I ran out and moved some product around, made sure all the stores were properly stocked. And the Compass guys were supposed to get here at 10:30. I got there like at 10:05 to drop this stuff off because it was my last stop on my little roundabout. And I was like, don't get me started. I got to be somewhere. He's like, okay. So we start. So it's like, all right, do you need anything else? Everything go? And then all of a sudden I was like, and they do this, and they're so stupid. Fuck, I gotta go. And just walked out the door. Like, I had to just walk out the door mid-sentence on him because I can't stop myself. Because he always he always asks, like, well, what do we do about all the different political woes when we get complaining about whatever?
All right.
Like, he's a big hemp guy. He wants his hemp. He wants Tennessee to be a rec state. He wants to start growing in his yard and selling his stuff and blah, blah, blah. And like, it's one of those that's like I was joking about a couple weeks ago, trying to run Max for Briggs' seat. And it's like, well, we got to get people to bother voting. That's a start. And then we've got to figure out how to keep engagement up, because that's the only way I think we're going to shift things around. Because I think the primary process is its own problem. Parliamentary systems have their own things. If you've followed any of the stuff going on, Macron's in trouble. Chancellor Schultz is in trouble. Bibi also obviously has his issues in Israel and stuff like that right now. With all Trudeau, yeah, he's about to get the boot, because he's down here being nice to Trump. Which, that's a fascinating thing. That's how dumb. That's one of the perfect examples of how dumb politics is. So as the leader of your nation, to go and speak with a leader of a foreign nation, specifically one who is a neighboring nation, specifically one who is threatening to do some stuff that's going to be damaging to your overall economy as your nation, but you hate that world, your party hates that world leader, so your party is going to crucify you for going to sit down and talk to him.
I don't think that's why they dislike him.
I mean, I think
it's more just the economy that's been going on the past few years. Like, he's been in hot water for a good 2 or 3 years.
Oh, but no, his Treasury Secretary quit because
he
went down to meet, like stated in the resignation.
No, it wasn't. I don't know.
Press conference is that
I saw that they had quit, but I didn't see reasoning.
That you don't go and you don't go talk to him and be his friend. You don't go and try to be nice to a bully. You fight back. Is basically like that was the core of their reason for leaving his administration.
I mean, I think they're, I don't know what exactly it's called, but some kind of like liberal party is what he's kind of like head of.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think they've been kind of losing favor for the past couple of years anyway.
But that's fine. That's different. That's the demographics of your voting populace moving around inside the system and stuff like that. And in a parliamentary system, the other parties get more seats. The party in power loses seats. The party in power loses a certain number of seats. They no longer get the prime minister. Blah blah blah. That's shifting elections. But when your own party is mad at you for trying to do your job, it seems a little bit problematic. I think my assertion being meeting with foreign world leaders, especially your next door neighbor who is threatening to put a big tariff on you because it's Trump, and trying to maybe be friendly with the guy so he might have some conscience about not doing the thing he's saying he's going to do because you're buddies now, might be the responsible thing as the world leader to do, I would think. But the Liberal Party in Canada just says, no, you don't talk to bad guys.
I don't know.
I mean, we do that here,
like
too.
Like I said, I haven't read this letter. I haven't heard that was the reasoning behind.
But I mean, we do that here, too.
That's pushback.
That's why
I don't think it was the main reason why his party and most of Canada dislikes him.
Well, there's been a huge, just worldwide, there's been a huge shift towards the more conservative parties of those countries. That has been over the 2024 elections around the world, at least in Western democracies, a lot of them have shifted more to their own country's version of the right.
Yeah, a little populist, yeah.
Yeah. And so that's part of the thing, obviously, too. But I mean, it's like, that's why we call it, like, that's why Tulsi's a Russian mole or whatever, because she went and met with different communist world leaders when she was a rep. And it's like, I don't understand why that's a damning move as a politician. If you care about that issue,
the way she went about going and meeting with Assad, and now there's even more questions as to her going and meeting with him. Now that I can't even really remember the latest number of like bodies that they're finding now in Syria.
I don't
know. Sorry,
but anyway, I mean, does it like so? If you go, you go. I don't know. Like,
I don't know much about it. I think it was like an unofficial visit, so I think that was more to it. It was like kind of like, hey, if you're going to go as a representative, you're speaking for the country, and you're doing it kind of unilaterally as a representative from Hawaii.
Okay,
I don't know.
You're right. I don't know the details of that part either. It just seems to be like I don't know. It seems to me like the logical end. Like, I don't think I thought it was a good thing overall that Trump went and had the summit with Un. I don't know that nothing necessarily great came out of it, but I don't think it's a bad thing. How could it be a bad thing? I guess is my question. Like, okay, you sat down, you talked, you still disagree on everything. Nothing changes. At least there was an opportunity for something positive.
Came out of it. Like, I mean, if the reports were true, like Trump sent him like a CD of like Elton John's Rocket Man.
That was
after the meeting.
That was well after the meeting, though. That wasn't like coming out of the meeting. They didn't sit down in the meeting and get in a spat, and then Trump did that. There was stuff that happened for a while between the two. I don't know. I don't know that it doesn't seem, at least practically speaking, it didn't seem to make things any worse. Now, again, Trump in his own version of rhetoric is problematic because then he does his Rocket Man stuff, which I don't like that. But I don't think Trump would have not done that or done that had he not met him personally. I don't think that part changed. You know what I'm saying? I don't
think he would have sent him a CD had they not met and been at least a little friendly.
I just feel like
I guess maybe that's my thought on it. It's one thing to meet, but it's another, I guess, when it kind of comes off as kind of like more friendly than like, let's be diplomatic. Like, obviously, we've had issues with North Korea for decades. I don't wholly dispute the idea that it's not a bad idea to go meet with them, but it's kind of in how you meet with them.
Which is funny because I'm the one that generally argues like isolationism, so I should be the one that be like, don't talk to any of them.
Right. Nice
or bad. But
I mean, it's one thing, like, major trading partners, but I don't think we don't have anything to do with North Korea.
Oh, I mean, but that's by design. That's a policy design. We don't have anything. Like, it's not that North Korea has nothing to provide. We could be a trading partner with them. Certainly, our ally South Korea would like us to not be in hot water with them.
Don't think they have anything to offer.
Okay,
but I think they pretty much like buy everything they have. I don't think they produce anything.
I mean, they certainly could not be a threat to our friends in South Korea. That's something to offer.
How do you do that? I mean, because that's an issue that's gone back with them for
obviously our totality of sanctions
decades.
Hasn't gotten them to be friends either. I mean, that's what we are doing to them. They're completely removed from the world economic system.
I mean, we're not the only country that has sanctions on them, but
I agree. But I don't what incentive do they have to be friends with us at this point? Like, everything that we do is adversarial to any sort of progress for them. I don't know. I'm not trying to. I don't mean to debate the finer points of U.S. North Korean policy. I'm just trying to say, like, I can't imagine it ever being a bad thing just to have world leaders from friends or foes just sit down and talk it out for a little bit. I just don't. I can't imagine. Again. I could see it being like old school weird where Trump throws a cheeseburger at Putin and then we have fucking World War III on our hands because Putin's a germaphobe and Trump's gross. I could see that maybe being a potential downside, but they're all glad-handing psychopaths anyway. They want to smile for the camera and they want to come out of a meeting and say good things happen, good things for you, good things for them, good things for us.
We got the better end of the deal on that.
Sure.
We met and we made sure to make sure
and
we
who
got the
cares
better.
if they're telling the truth or not, as long as it's not worse. And I don't know that we've had a lot of occasions in the history of time where adversarial powers sit down at the table and things get worse after the fact.
Yeah,
at least
sure
if
it's
there's
happened.
any sort of good faith. Well, I mean, as I was saying that, it's like, well, at least as I understand it, Hamas and Israel have been at the table a bunch of times, and Israel has no intent on accepting anything, so they just keep saying no and leaving. But nothing's getting any worse; it's just already terrible. So I wouldn't say it's at least an attempt at trying to put something in place to stop what's going on, but it's not even. It's only a half attempt because it doesn't seem like Israel wants to play anyway.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I'm just saying, like, but even in that completely dysfunctional peace talks, things aren't getting worse. They're not coming out of the peace talks with more death than they were doing before the peace talks. So, anyway, I don't know how did we get on that? We were talking about women shouldn't work anymore, and you were arguing about how much I was right on that topic.
Yes,
Right?
I was. Yeah,
I
I was completely agreeing with you. I said everything you said is completely factual. I cannot dispute it.
That is my recollection of the conversation we did have on that topic. Indeed,
Damn near verbatim.
Yeah, I don't know why we spent 20 minutes on it. We could have just said it in that one sentence. I don't know what else you got. I tried to share that. Like it was just weird. Okay, so like I know you don't look at your Facebook Messenger, and we've joked about how I send you stuff on Facebook, and I really do that with the intent of I'm just trying to. Like as a placeholder for something, whether it's a video I saw or something like that, so that I can bring it back in here. It would not let me send you this video. And so to put the story back together, I suppose a couple
Maybe
weeks
it was a video that had already been removed. Maybe there wasn't like a link that it would let you send.
I don't know, but I'm watching the video and I hit the share button, send in Messenger, and it acts like I sent it. And then I keep watching the video, and then I go over to Messenger because I was like, he said this about this thing, and it's not there. Like it says, like I said, I've hit the send button on it no less than 4 times. And if I go back to our Messenger conversation, last time I sent anything was November 7th. And this was last night before when I was trying to send it to you.
I don't know, maybe I'm finally inactive. I don't know.
Maybe. I just thought it was a very strange occurrence. To have...
Yeah, you tried to send a different video to test your theory.
I did not, because I haven't seen another video that was worth sending. But anyway, apparently it was the sheriff or one of the top deputies to that sheriff that you were telling us about a couple weeks ago, whom had gotten raided in his home by the TBI and FBI. And it was... I don't know. I don't know the story. I don't understand the story at large. But this guy was talking about how his argument, at least, was that the raid that they did on him was to get all the evidence that him and his cohorts had been compiling on a transnational conspiracy,
Right.
Where foreign nations were buying local, state, and federal politicians off, and in like mortgage scams and taking people's homes and properties from them, and human trafficking and drug trafficking and all this different stuff that was at play, and it was all kind of piled together, and they were, you know, on the murder board thing. They had all the pictures of all the people, and the red lines were going everywhere. Everybody was involved, and they were trying to put a case together. Essentially, is his argument. And so I don't know.
I've seen some clips of him. Like I said, I don't know if he had his own podcast or if he was just a frequent guest on some other kind of semi-predominant podcast, but they were espousing some Q theories and whatnot.
Yeah. Pizzagate.
So a couple of he was wearing like some weird like World War II kind of like, you know, helmet. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't get it. Tennessee people.
It sounded like a bunch of fucked up shit that I think the TBI is still going after him. Because like I said, he resigned earlier this week or late last week. And then
they peed in his tub. Apparently, it was one of the things he said in the video. They peed in his tub and in his laundry basket. The FBI or TBI did while they were searching his house.
Okay.
They peed on his stuff. That's kind of where I lost it. Like I was like, okay,
I don't know how you prove that.
This is interesting. This guy could be good. This could be something. This could be something. They peed on my stuff. I mean, I don't know. If they're in his house for a long time, they're probably going to use the bathroom. I don't know what the rules are on that. I wonder what the rules are. I think there's probably got to be rules when you're serving a search warrant and you're going through people's house and their stuff. They're probably not allowed to use their bathroom.
I think that would see why not.
Kind of mess with the crime scene.
It depends on what they're going in for. It depends on the extent of what the search warrant allows them to go through.
It's not that,
because usually it's pretty specific.
I mean, I would think, would you need the homeowner's permission? I feel like you can't just use somebody's bathroom.
To use the bathroom?
Yeah. I don't think you could just use my bathroom. Okay, you have a warrant to be in my house looking for a specific item. Because that's usually how they're supposed to be. Like, it's supposed to be like, we have probable cause to believe that you have X.
Right.
Usually we're allowed to search the premises for X or things related to X.
Right.
I don't think anywhere in the warrant says, while you're there, you can use the facilities. I don't think it gives you I don't know. I'm curious. This is a completely random thought. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't foresee anything that stops them from using the bathroom.
I don't know. That's interesting.
I'm assuming, if they're in a neighborhood, they can't break law and go outside and
pee in the bushes.
Right. Potentially, expose themselves.
I'll see. I might. I might email one of my cop friends and ask him that.
Just out of a weird curiosity.
I mean, we're having this conversation about a thing that's happening somewhere else, and the guy alleges that they peed on his stuff. What happens if you're in the house and you got to pee? Are you allowed to just use somebody's bathroom, or is there a rule for that? I feel like there's probably some protocol on what you're allowed to do and not to.
Yeah. No, after his resignation, the sheriff apparently put out like a very brief statement, which was like, "Oh, he resigned today," which concluded, I guess, any kind of internal investigation. So basically, he leaves the sheriff's department in good standing, and
right, like you said,
from his police record, can probably go somewhere else. Which I think when that Phil Williams guy dug into his history, that he found like a couple more than blemishes on his record, that he had represented himself as working at like a jailer or a police officer in like a different county, but come to find out he wasn't any of that.
Yeah,
or he did work at the jail, but like put himself out to be like some sergeant on the the regular force, but he did actually like work at the jail, but kind of like exaggerated his record and flat out lied in a couple other spots. But.
Right. So we should find this article and some other things on him and send it to Spangler and say, when he does come here to try to get a job, please don't hire this man.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because me and the missus are concerned. We were watching that Florida Man series on HBO that I told you about.
I think you mentioned it.
Okay, it's Florida Man, I think is what it's called. Do you remember Drunk History?
Yeah.
It's the same kind of format where they have like reenactments of the story, but they actually have the people in the story telling the story. And like the favorite little like kind of reoccurring bit that they do is that it'll be the guy who's telling the story of the thing he did, and he'll be like, "This thing happened," and I was like, "Oh shit." And then it'll cut over to the reenactment, and it's the actor playing him going, "Oh shit," and then doing whatever's going on.
Right.
But they like it almost like it's a repeated bit where it's like the person says something, and then it cuts to it, and that the actor says the same thing, and then continues on the story. Anyway, one of the stories involved this weird cultist couple who harassed a friend, coworker, neighbor, the mermaid, the whole big weird thing. And the spouse was a Coe County or whatever it was in Florida, sheriff's deputy. And so, like, it was one of those, this lady was trying to ignore him, trying to leave him alone, trying to just be like, just you mind your business, mind mine. They end up moving next door to her, harassing her from next door. She finally breaks down and goes to the cops on it, and the cops are like, "Yeah, this is a problem. Why didn't you come to us sooner?" "Well, he's one of yours." And so this all stuff. So you see, like as the story concludes, I don't remember exactly what happened, but as the story concludes, he basically resigns from that office. And the missus said, "Yeah, he's probably going to come up here and take a job with us and be one of our sheriff's deputies, because that's how they do. They don't get fired. They don't get.
Well,
they don't get recorded issues. They just go find a job somewhere else.
It happens there, but it happens in a lot of professions.
Yeah,
where
it does.
It basically gets told it's like you can either quit or we're going to fire you.
Yeah, but a lot of professions don't have that. Dealing with the public part. In that sort of with authority sort of way.
Right.
Not that level of authority over the public. I think that, again, that goes to that standard thing that we talk about, that, I feel like maybe their public record should kind of travel with them if they want to leave job A in a police office.
I agree. I don't know if it was a state or a federal bill, I thought, that got floated recently that would kind of like codify that to where your record would follow you.
Yeah, at
least for law enforcement, I believe.
Maybe a better way to just to simplify it, regardless of whatever that is like, I would think I have to get a criminal background check to sell liquor in the state of Tennessee. Right. I have to get a criminal background check to sell beer in the state of Tennessee. I now have to get a criminal background check to sell hemp products in the state of Tennessee. So to carry permits for my job, I have it's one background check, but I have to submit it to 3 different places. To have permits for these different permits that I need to do my job.
Right.
I would think that to be a police officer or a sheriff's deputy, a criminal background check would be included.
It gets done, but what shows up on your criminal record?
It's a good question.
It's the only things you're convicted for. Things you're accused of.
No.
Pretty sure don't show up on your criminal record.
Not in my more recent one, but one of my old ones was I don't think I was convicted of. I agreed to time served something. I don't remember how that came out. I don't remember if I'm a convicted public intoxicant or if it was a probation. I think it was a probation. I think it was a hey.
Yeah, there's sometimes you get put on that, like, don't let anything happen for a year, right. And this will go off your record.
No harm, no foul. Nobody got hurt. Nothing. This, that, and the other. I was just released. I wasn't bailed out of jail. I was just released because I served my night, and they're like, time served, and you're on probation for 6 months or whatever. As long as nothing else happens, this goes away. Nothing else happened, that should have gone away.
It could have been the case where as long as nothing else happens, you don't serve the time that you would have been sentenced, because that's what some of the sentencing is. It's like okay, if you were supposed to get 90 days for whatever in that, they'll give you time served and they'll put you on probation. But if you fuck up in probation, they're like, you're going to come back and serve those 90 days that we were going to give you originally, but we gave you,
we gave you a little leniency, whatever. Right. But I always go to like Max's story when he was like 14, 15 or whatever. Him and his friends were out playing in the woods or something like that, and one of the neighbors called the cops on him, and the cops chased him through the woods, and they finally caught up to him, and they had ninja stars in their pockets. You remember this story?
I don't think so.
And they went through the whole thing, and the at least according to Max and his retelling of the story, the judge was like, "Does that count? Are ninja stars counted as a weapon? Like, is this something like is it like criminal possession of a weapon charge was part of it or whatever?" And the judge just threw the whole thing out. And like 5 years later, when he was going through his clearance check for the Marine Corps, that was on their municipal search of him. When they looked into records on him, it was a juvenile case that was supposed to be sealed that he was never actually convicted of.
All right.
That was supposed to be wiped from his record. 5-6 years later, when he was a legal adult, was still on his record. And so, I don't know. It's a good question.
I mean, that may be a difference in like getting security clearance, where that they may be able to do bigger delves into your history.
Right. They can go background check past things that are supposed to be not in your background check anymore.
Right.
I mean, that's essentially what happened in his one. And again, I don't know. I'm just saying, maybe. But again, on the same premise, it's like, yeah, that background check, the one that you're doing on, persons the one that you're doing on the Marines and our Army kids that are going around the world to fight our wars for us. That background check probably could be the standard background check for a law enforcement officer.
Right.
I
mean, to some extent, I think it's gotten better, but it was an issue for years of even just individual states not sharing information from one another.
Right.
For one reason or another, but
like at least the one,
or they had a different database system. They kept it all in.
The couple of times that I've been a part of a security clearance conversation is when my brother went into the Navy, when one of our former employees left us and went for, I don't remember if it was Y-12 or ORNL or one of them or whatever. And like it's like the actual factual FBI shows up and it's like, hey, we need to ask you some questions about this person. And so I think the point is that the FBI does that because they go and get the records from the state. It's no longer, whatever state A asking for state B to share. It's the FBI telling the state they have to share.
All right.
So again, I don't know. Moral being, I think that there is plenty of room for and plenty of there should be some obligation in that sort of public position to maybe have an obliged a little bit deeper look into people before you give them a gun and a badge.
All right. I mean, it's not too uncommon in like the medical field as well.
Yeah,
where they'll have a lawsuit in one state or lose their license in one state and move to another state, get their license, or somehow it doesn't get found out that they lost their license in a different state.
Yeah, I mean that is not cool, but I don't have as big an.
That's what I said. It's there are other professions that happens in where people get to leave and their record kind of goes unblemished because they were able to walk away versus getting canned.
And I don't have. I'm not saying that that's okay or not okay. I'm just saying for the one specific, I think it's reasonable.
I agree. I just wanted to point out that it's not exclusionary.
Sure, but I mean, I think okay. So on the Austin topic, one of the things that I think one of my hot take is I think if you get elected for office, you have zero right to privacy as long as you hold that seat.
There was some debate to that, not to an extent, with Congress, and I think it had to do with whether or not people could respond or whether congressional or Congress people could, I guess, not unfollow, but basically like kick someone off from being followed because they were posting too many things to their account. And I want to say the courts came down that if it was the representatives or senators, whatever, personal, then they could kick someone off from being a follower or whatever. But if it was their official, then they didn't quite have the same. Like, that's fine, they're spamming you or whatever. I guess if there's issues in that, if they're spamming whatever using bots. But if it's actual, like, just kind of public discourse, that you can't just
you don't have the right to
you can't ban them from posting on your page or whatever.
That is a thing too. But I'm going full on like they should be.
Also, I think something relatable to
they should be obliged to wear a body cam at all hours.
To where the court said you're a public figure.
Yeah, like I think you have as an elected official you have a right to. How do I word this correctly? You have a right to private spaces, in that you are not obliged to let anybody just walk in your house. I'm not trying to advocate for that, but that your comings and goings, where you are, what you're doing, who you're talking to, what you're talking to them about, should be public record.
If I'll go that far, but yeah, I could see some more transparency.
I would, because that's the problem is that to me that's the issue is that if you put a line in somewhere, then it's just a game of figuring out how to have the conversation or do the deed or whatever it is that technically falls underneath the line.
Are you going to have them self-report? How are you going to have this happen?
Like I said, I think you have a body cam, and they just have to have it all the time. They just wear their cop body cams, and they stay on all the time. They have to go with them everywhere. They're allowed to put it in a box in their bathroom where you can still hear the audio, but you can't see them showering.
What?
I don't care. I have zero. Like, if you don't want to have the world be able to watch or listen to you take a shower, then don't run for office.
Okay, interesting.
I'm trying to figure. Well, because the problem is how do you
So if you're a representative, you'd be wholly fine with that? I mean, I know you like this idea already, so it's probably a stupid question for me to ask, but
I mean, I feel like if I'm going to make the argument, I'm obliged to be okay with it. Because yes, it makes sense insofar as like, there's no way to draw a line that isn't manipulatable, so you make it so there is no line. That's the only way I think you could fix it. Is like that if I wanted to, if I was the Tim Burchett tracker and we had my system in place, if I wanted to, I could document every moment of his day through whatever system is in play, and so that there's no dark spots, for lack of a better word. I could see that he's sleeping. I could see that he's doing this. I could see that he's in D.C. I could see that he's in Hawaii. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
I like that there are no dark spots there's no dark spots in his time, because like I said, if you figure out a way to do it otherwise, or I mean, okay, maybe the best solution I can think of is that you can have a certain amount of time in a certain place where you put your stuff in a box that includes your phone and any other communication device. Because that's the problem. Like, that's the problem to me. It's like, okay, so I want to have a conversation with you about some sort of backroom, old school backroom deal style thing where you're going to give me X and I'm going to get you Y, and I'm the public official in this conversation. Well, if we write it in that you're not that the thing doesn't have to follow you into the bathroom, well, then I just call you while I'm going to the bathroom, and we talk on the phone in the bathroom. And then the thing doesn't get to pick it up. I still get to have my conversations and do my corrupt things. I just have to be specific about how I do them now, because I only have certain places I can do them. And that's where I draw the issue, and I can't figure out the solution to say, if there's a line, how do we guarantee that you don't exploit that line? And that's the only way I can the only logical way to not have to worry about you exploiting that line is to have no line.
Okay.
I mean, that's my argument in the game.
Okay.
I mean,
I think it's crazy.
You were with me until I got to the extreme version of it.
I'm for accountability, yes, but
I mean, because again, like okay, so you're where you were at it. Is it like something that's like self-reported? I think was what you said.
No, I was asking you how you were fleshing this out to make this work. That goes before you mentioned the body cams.
I don't know. Okay,
if you required like people's agenda to be posted or something like.
So help me back it up. Well, help me back it up into a more reasonable version of it. Because again, like I could see you doing something where it's like you are allowed.
I guess
your phone is public record. Everything goes on your phone. Maybe, I don't know. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say. I guess I'm missing why you think that they should be entitled to much less privacy.
Because you ran because you're a public official. Because you chose that path in life. If you don't want to deal with this scrutiny, then don't.
Right, but you're going beyond the scope. I mean, okay, if they're in the Capitol building, fine.
Well, because
I don't get this, like,
because I think
23-6 whatever.
Because I think we all would agree that they're not. They're doing work beyond the time when they're in the Capitol. I mean, Becky Massey on the local version of it, Becky talks about how it's a full-time fucking job.
Right.
Even though she's only in Nashville 3 days a week for 4 months, every other day of the week she's in Knoxville and she's talking to her constituents and she's talking to this and she's doing that.
Right.
And then
do you filter that out too when constituents are talking to that person that's being body cam footage, or now you talking to your representative is?
Yeah. If you want to walk up to your representative and ask for something, you better be comfortable with the world knowing you asked for it. I think that's fair.
Okay.
I mean, it would discourage people from, the quid pro quo, if you will.
Or discourage people from talking to their representative about, sensitive things that they thought they were talking to their representative about. They maybe had to do with privacy issues. I don't know.
I mean, I see where you're going with that part, and I could see that being, but I don't know, like, I don't know, like, I don't know how you, so that, but again, it's just open, that kicks the door wide open where, I have a meeting with Miss Massey. I have a privacy thing I want to talk to her about, so this one goes off the record, and that's when I sit down with Becky and say, hey, Becky, I'm going to give you, $20 million for your nonprofit that you like that does the cool things here in Knoxville. That next contract that comes up for the thing, make sure we get it. Because nobody gets to see us having this conversation. And I can have an excuse on why nobody gets to see us having this conversation.
Is it only elected officials? Appointed officials as well?
I don't know. I think Elon Musk at this point should be public record everything he's doing. If he doesn't want the scrutiny, then he shouldn't seek the job. If that's what you're kind of pointing at. I mean, I think the only exception that I don't have a good answer to, obviously I don't have a good answer to.
I wasn't even trying to go big or anything like that. I was just trying to flesh out the basics of it.
No, I mean, I think
if this was only elected officials or
so, like, okay, so that'd be one minor. Okay, so for the privacy thing you were discussing earlier, that is a workaround. So we have Carly, I forgot her last name, whom is Becky's secretary, office assistant. I don't know what her job title technically is or whatever. She's awesome. I, as a constituent, should be able to talk to her all I want, and she should be able to tell me all the things she wants to tell me, and that doesn't have to be on record. But when she goes to Becky to get Becky's assistance on it,
why should your conversation with essentially like her right-hand person
because
not be recorded?
Because that's not a conversation with Becky Massey. Becky Massey is the one who is elected to the office, and everything.
So now it only takes an intermediary to go around this now?
Well,
you just found yourself another workaround. Like,
okay.
oh, well, just don't talk to them directly. Just talk to someone that doesn't have to wear a body cam every day.
Okay. So our assistant to the state senator is going to get what done without the state senator?
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, that's the question. So the conversation,
I mean, you could do it all over just like text and keep it away from the picture and just have them just read text over to.
Yeah, I think
you don't have to say a word.
I think the sure. I think phone and computer records should be part of the public part too. I think.
I mean, there's encrypted messaging services.
Okay, then you're not allowed to use it. It's not allowed to be on your device. I don't care. I mean, that's it's just you don't get that option. Like you just set it up in a way you don't get that option. You can't go to your computer.
Do you see this as discouraging to people wanting to run for office that had maybe not have had thought of wanting to be in office? I thought about it before, but fuck.
If what we keep electing is the people who want the job, then if we're going to discourage them from seeking the job, sure. I could see value in getting less of the people whom are the sociopaths that continue to seek out the higher power positions. If we could discourage them from going down that path, I'm okay with that.
Okay. How much money are you willing to spend on this? Because this is an expensive endeavor.
Not really.
I mean, I can't think of like specific numbers, but I know police departments, when they were looking at adding body cams, like it wasn't cheap to add body cams.
I mean, how many officers are they putting these body cams on?
Depends on the size of the department. I don't know.
I mean,
I think I prefaced it with I don't know numbers.
When you
but I know it wasn't cheap, and I know like the ones they use like are not cheap. I'd say they're probably at least like $5,000 a piece.
Okay, and we've got 100. State of Tennessee has 100 House reps and 30. Well, it's 130 times 5,000. I know. Don't ask you math questions. I'm getting the calculator out. Relax. Just to get plus the governor, obviously 131 times 5,000. It's just
that's just the cameras. Then you've got to have all the software,
$655 million
database to store all this.
Yeah, so $1 billion, give or take.
I mean, that's just House and Senate of the state.
That's the governor too,
and the governor. Sorry.
Well, I mean,
we're talking like city mayors, city council, county commission, board of ed. Okay.
I mean, we can afford it. We can buy a baseball stadium.
I'll float the idea to your Miss Massey's attaché. I'm kind of curious to see the googly eyes go, what?
Yeah, why would they? Why would they? Why would they at any level want to do that?
You're right.
I mean, it's the same.
They're only against it because
it adds stuff for them to have to do. It's more work for them. It's less privacy for them. Yeah, why would they want to? I mean, same thing with like, to me it's the same thing as like the whole insider trading argument with Pelosi, or the congressional stock ban that kind of floated for a second.
It's twice you brought up Pelosi tonight.
She had a fall. That was an interesting story, but I don't know why. I'm just thinking. Okay. What was I bringing up about before?
Don't remember exactly.
Random Democrat. No, okay. So to be fair, McConnell had a fall too. It's been a fun old fucks in the federal House and Senate week. Did you hear either of those stories?
I heard about Pelosi.
Yeah, she had
surgery.
Yeah, she had her fucking hip replaced in Greece or some shit.
I thought she was in the Alps or something. But yeah, somewhere in Europe.
Yeah, she was. Yeah.
I didn't hear about McConnell. No.
Yeah, I was trying to think of how to if I was good at Photoshop, I would have done the U.S. Capitol and put a fall wrist bracelet on it. If I could figure out if I was good at Photoshop, just basically turn the
AI do that shit for you now.
Right, turn the U.S. Capitol into just try to make it look like a nursing home. Basically, at this point, it was kind of the joke I was trying to work out in my head. I couldn't figure out exactly how I would do it.
Right.
I mean, that's it. That saddens me so much. Anyway,
they're trading.
Yeah, it's like why? Is it the right thing to do? It doesn't matter. Why would they do that? Why would they handicap their own ability? even if it's the right thing to do. That's not something that our elected officials generally do. It's not impossible that they would do it out of the goodness of their hearts, but I mean, I think as a public, I think when it was a hot issue and there was polling on it, it was strongly polled that they should not be able to trade, period, while they're in office. I think was what most of the polling was that was coming out when that was a hot button topic. So obviously, what polling is, which is obviously not democratic technically, but at least the polling tends to show that the populace at large, the populace at large thought that would be a correct law to put on the books. And does it happen? No. Why doesn't it happen? Because why would you do that if you're McConnell, Pelosi, whoever? It doesn't matter. It's not a party issue here. Why would you put something in place like that if you're in that position? There's no incentive for you. It's obviously not an electability issue. If you're Nancy Pelosi, you can win San Francisco every day, all day, because nobody's going to primary you and no Republican's going to win San Francisco. So why not? Why? It's not going to hit you. It's not going to hurt you politically not to do this thing that's super popular, obviously, or they would have done it. That's the point I was trying to get to. Again, it had nothing to do with Pelosi per se, other than that was a specific example from.
Gotcha. I was just wondering. I'm like, why you brought it up twice? Why is Pelosi on the brain?
I
forgot she had her fall.
She had the fall, and right. We had Feinstein die in office a year ago.
Yeah.
What's that? I think there was a chart I saw recently, and it was an updated one with the current. And it's like the current average age in the U.S. Senate is 60, and that's up from a couple years ago when last time we had a shift around in it. And then the House is also up there in the upper 50s.
Yeah.
It's that sucks. Especially because we've had the conversation many times, is that the younger House members, other than AOC's been around for she's old enough. She's going to be president. She's going to run for president next time, apparently. That's on the rumor mill.
No, I don't think so.
But AOC's she's 33, 34 right now.
Yeah, it'd be 35 to run for president.
Right. Yeah. And so next cycle she will have crossed that threshold to be old enough to run for president. But there's not many of those. I mean, even Bernie, that a lot of people like. Bernie's fucking old as shit. A lot of them are super old. And I don't know that's certainly representative of the population who bothers to vote, but that is certainly not representative of the population at large.
It's representative of the, people that run for that federal office. 'Cause most people aren't going there starting out being a county commissioner to make that big leap. So most people have kind of done their due time in other
right. Senate
other
for
areas.
sure. You got to have some miles on you to run for Senate. I agree with that.
I think same in the House as well. I mean, you've got those rare people that have kind of had weird grassroots. I don't think AOC did too much before being in Congress. Obviously at a local level, but I don't. She obviously didn't hold a seat for 10 years being a.
Well, Obama was a community organizer in the greater Chicago area. I don't think he was elected to a single office until he ran for Senate, and he was a freshman senator when he ran for president.
I thought he was a state senator before he became federal senator. No, I think was he ever a federal senator? I think he was just a state senator.
It was I don't know.
Sure.
I just recall the phrase being freshman senator. He was a freshman senator when he ran for president. I believe it was federal.
Right. Okay, I mean, you're going to find those uncommon things, but I think more often than not, the people that are getting into Congress and Senate, have been playing the quote-unquote political game for at least 10 or 15 years.
At least on the Senate side, I will bet you that the McConnells, the Pelosi's, the Feinsteins, who was our senator before?
Pelosi's in the House.
Huh?
Pelosi's in the House.
Okay. So Feinstein was in the House, too.
Senator Feinstein.
Was it Senator Feinstein?
Yeah.
Well, fuck. I'm sorry. Pelosi. I'm sorry. Feinstein, McConnell. Who was our senator before Haggerty? Because that was just in the last couple cycles when Haggerty and Blackburn took it.
Right.
But Haggerty and Blackburn are going to hold those seats for another decade. And
possibly.
My point being is that Pelosi, but not Pelosi. I don't know about Feinstein's history, but McConnell became a senator from Kentucky in the 90s, and it's been that seat since.
Probably, yeah.
That's why they're so fucking old, is because they're staying. It's not that they're winning races when they're older because it's the first time they're running for it. They're winning races when they're older because they've been there and they're just keeping their seat.
I mean, you have in any election, you've got those, whatever you want to call them, the tried and true districts that They don't have to worry about whatsoever that they're going to side for one party or another.
If you like, we weren't doing the show yet, but when who did Blackburn replace? Thompson?
Bill? No. He used to be he was Chattanooga mayor. Haslam. Pretty sure he was a senator.
No, he was a governor.
Pretty sure he did one term as a senator.
No, I
want to say he said some unkind words or whatever. Wasn't too favorable with Trump, and then he was one of the few senators that didn't care as much for him.
All right, so current. Oh, geez, we go all the way back to the beginning.
We'll scroll to the bottom.
Scroll down. All right. Bob Corker and Lamar Alexander.
Sorry, Bob Corker.
Right. Lamar Alexander held the seat from 03 to 21. Corker held the seat from 07 to 19. Prior to, you had Senator Fred Thompson from 94 to 2003, so 10 years. And Bill Frist from 95 to 2007, another 10, 12 years. We'll go back into the 80s. We got Al Gore. He only held it for 8 years. That's a weird number. Oh, he resigned to become vice president under Clinton, and was replaced with Harlan Matthews to finish out that term. But I mean, that's my point. Is
I think it was Corker. I think he didn't he used to be a mayor.
I don't know.
Sorry.
Well, I mean, let's look at the history of Bob Corker here. We can do this. Like the shortest one in here is the shortest one in here was 8 years.
Yeah, mayor of Chattanooga.
The shortest one that we just kind of ran through was the appointee to replace Gore, but elected was Gore himself, who left the seat to be vice president.
Right, Senate 6 years anyway.
Right. So he did a term and a third.
Okay, but in somebody does 2 terms. I mean, we
years.
were looking at 12 years. Like they spent 12 years in there. They spent 2 terms in there. Yes, They got elected twice.
Well, Lamar did.
I'm just trying to tamp down the amazement of they were there for 12 years.
I mean, I think that's a long time to fucking be there.
Well, I mean that's a federal standard of what a term is.
Right.
I'm not surprised they didn't get recalled because you and I both know that's damn near impossible.
Gore Sr. held one of the Senate seats for 18, so that's 3 cycles. Keith McKellar held it from 1917 to 1953. We're still pretty active. I wonder what Kentucky is. I'd be curious. Let's go. Let me go check my card.
We'll see how long he's been in there.
Kentucky.
Did you mean to say?
Yeah, I tried to just do it by. All right. Rand Paul and Mitch McConnell. McConnell has been there from 85 to present.
Yeah.
And Rand Paul has been there from 11 to present. All right, so.
The Whig Party.
So what is since we're just throwing the names around in the Senate. I'm working on sentences. Shut up. After losing a race for governor in 90, she was elected to the U.S. Senate in 92. So she was in 92 to 2022. So 30 years she was in the Senate.
Yeah.
I think that's a long time. I think that's a problem.
It's a long time, but it's rare.
Although it doesn't seem like it's that rare. It seems like it's pretty common, especially for the names that we know, having been there for a while.
Right, because we remember those, just because they keep getting pointed out to us.
Well, because they've been there forever, and they're the most powerful people in government.
Yes, when you've been there a while, you start getting more committee appointments, etc. Yes.
Or your speaker.
Nobody wants the freshman senator.
Or your president of the Senate, or the caucus chair, or
president of the Senate is vice president. But
I'm sorry, the majority, the majority,
the leader.
majority leader and the minority leader. Yeah, whatever.
I don't know. I mean, I went through once of like the House when we kind of went down the rabbit hole of thinking that everyone had been in there the longest, and I broke down like all the current people and how long they had been there, and you know, like I said, I think it's one of those things we remember the people that have been there, like the Pelosi that have been there forever. But when you actually look at all the others, like they are very rare,
right? But
and it's those few exceptions that drive up the average
right.
age.
Or is that the median? That's
the mean. Mean is average. Median is the middle number of a number set. We went over this.
I know, and I forgot because we went over it like 2 years ago. But I don't know. But I'll sit here and argue that I'll pitch all these fits that I've just been pitching, but I'll also say we shouldn't have term limits. So, but
okay, we'll pick a side, bro.
It's not a side.
Pick a lane.
It's an elections issue. It's an election fairness issue. It's a gerrymandering and all the other shit that they do to keep seats. And I say they do. Excuse me. I'm snotty. You know, like the idea that Pelosi can continue to win the same seat over and over again either means she does really well for her district and they like her a lot, or not dissimilar to Knox County. She's a Democrat in a very strongly Democratic county or district, excuse me. And when you're the most powerful Democrat maybe in the nation, nobody fucking primaries you. And if the Democrats win in that seat, full stop, all you have to do is beat a couple of wackadoos in the primary, which Pelosi's going to beat every day of the week. Because no real Democrat's dumb enough to run against her. Because you have zero future if you actually tried to primary Nancy Pelosi.
It could just been the Democratic Party there that, you know, kind of pulled an Eddie or whatever, and just didn't want to put in, or just made sure that no one else would even try to.
As I'm saying, the only people that have the only people that have likely primaried against Pelosi in her district in however long she's been rerunning for that seat have been like full on wackadoos, because no legitimate Democrat's going to primary. I doubt that there's a race where there's somebody that's...
I'm sure there were some legitimates that did and just
maybe
didn't
early,
make it far.
Maybe the first couple of times around, but not in the last handful.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't think it's improbable to think that there was somebody else that, you know, that tried to go out and campaign as, like, you know, Nancy Pelosi's been there a while, like... I agree with her on, you know, many of her positions, but we need a fresh voice in the House.
But I mean, I think, you know, I think our little District 18, the Eddie one that you brought up, is like Eddie broke the rule. But prior to that, at least in our history of paying attention to it and stuff like that, and then post, you know, Elaine Davis is a shitty candidate. I've said it over and over again. Nobody's primarying her because the party's not going to let them. They don't want it. And they don't have to have it. And if District 18 is going to keep voting for Republicans, Elaine Davis is going to keep winning the seat as long as she wants it. It's not that she's the best person for the job, that's for sure. It's that District 18 votes for Republicans, and the Republicans are only going to have whoever they want on the ticket. And that's what they've done that's what I would argue they've done in Pelosi's district as well. Because anybody who has any want for a future in the party is not going to run against that. That's why Eddie screwed up, because if Eddie had any future political hopes, you don't buck the machine. You go out and start a new clothing store. Or something. I mean, you know, like, I really want to talk to him. I need to...
What he did was prior to his tenure or whatever.
No, that was part of it. But that wasn't all of it.
That wasn't all of it. That was, I guess, that was the chair's big talking point.
I mean, that was the argument for that primary and the Gina Oster part and that whole thing. But once he got in and they dealt with the fact that he snuck in, they thought, you know, I mean, it was... He voted against the trans bathroom bill or whatever, and that was a big fucking one that they fucking hated him for. And as I've heard from proper Republican, I don't know what the word is for strategists, persons in the know, people in the party kind of stuff, the people that I've talked to over time, is that if you're going to run with our name, then we're going to expect you to do the things we ask you to do. They don't say it that way, but that's what they mean. If you're a Tennessee Republican, when the Tennessee Republicans put a bill on the floor, you vote for it. I don't care how you feel about it. I don't care how your constituents feel about it. The Republicans put it on the floor. You vote for it. We don't show weakness. I think that's what killed Eddie Manis, is that he didn't say yes to everything the Republican Party did in the state of Tennessee.
Okay.
I mean, I actually know that. That's not, I don't think that. I know that. That is why the party, I think, personally, sat him down and said, hey, do not run for this seat again. Just go ahead and say you did it. And you're going to go on. You have personal life stuff that you want to do. Because if you do run again, we are going to bury you in the primary.
So where does the blame fall? Is it more so on the candidates or on the parties that are putting these candidates up?
I don't know. The party, the machine, the candidates. I don't know. It's not really. It's not Eddie's fault that he got his ass It's not Eddie's fault that he thought that he was fully. What is it? Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. I think he thought he had an opportunity to do some good things, and I think he wanted to do some what he thought were good things. And we can agree or disagree on whether they were or weren't good things. And from his opinion, it doesn't really matter. I think he saw this as an opportunity to make his state better, and maybe a future for him in politics too. I think he had a little bit of that in him, that he had a want for that. But I think he naively thought that the party wasn't as strong as it is. And so, yeah, who's the bad guy here? The party's the bad guy. And the party is not particular. This particular is the Republican Party of the state of Tennessee, yes. But I think at large, it's the party's incentive here is to keep a candidate with their name on it. And what's the best way to do that? Have one, build a district that is going to vote for your party, and then keep the candidate that does what they're told for the party in that seat. And I think that's what gerrymandering is. I think that's what a bunch of the different election laws that they put in place are, is a way to solidify the seats. We give up the seats that we have to, and there are some seats that over time just naturally end up being a little bit more competitive because demographic shifts. We can't stop people from moving in and out. But we build a district, and that district is firmly ours, and we put a person in there that does what we want. And that has nothing to do with the people of that district. I think that's the way the machine works. Am I crazy?
No.
Okay. I feel crazy sometimes.
Well, I just kind of want to, we like to point fingers at the politicians, but never really want to back off. Yeah, there's some pointing at the parties. I think it's kind of funny. I hear some people trying to back away, and now they're just like the uniparty.
It is.
It's kind of the new kind of tagline.
I like the uniparty. I like that as a pejorative. I've always liked that as a pejorative.
I think it's some people that were entrenched in it that think they're being sly and trying to sidestep and being like, no, it's the parties. Hi, see, I've been calling this out the whole time.
I think in the uniparty, the uniparty tagline to me is, it is long term. The incentive is in place that the long term is better for me if I'm party A, if I only have to compete with party B. And so I'd rather lose to party B than to let party C even exist. And so even though I don't like party B and I want to beat them at all costs, what I don't want to do is have to beat B and C in the future. Because if we let C in the door, then all of a sudden it's B, C, and D. And then all of a sudden we get this complicated 5-6 party system and nobody understands what's going on anymore and blah, blah, blah. It's better for me as party A to just keep it AB. Because especially in campaigning, it's easy for me to campaign a black-white on everything. I can make this a zero-sum argument on everything that we're doing. Because I only have to say, they think the opposite. I don't have to say, well, that guy thinks this thing, party C thinks this other thing, party D thinks this other thing. I have to get more nuanced in my arguments if I have to make counters to 2, 3, 4 different people. And so it's easier for us if I only have an A-B fight. And so I do think that there is some level of unipartiness to that part of it. They understand that it's easier for them to, it's easier for both parties long term to just have both parties. Because both parties, you have democratically controlled states, you have Republican controlled states. All of those states make it really hard and complicated for third parties to get on ballots. We get weird stuff like Maine and Alaska that have ranked choice, which is awesome. Could you imagine trying to get ranked choice in a super Republican state like Tennessee or a super Democratic state like Massachusetts?
I'm trying to remember. I know there's some states that literally started, I think, passed bills that kind of forbade ranked choice from like ever being a choice.
Yeah, because it's not good for the parties. Because one of the things with ranked choice is it throws primaries out the window. As long as your name's on the ballot, you're in play. You don't have to worry about
For the first round.
The ranked choice has no rounds. There's one vote. Now, you could still have a primary, theoretically, in a ranked choice system.
Well, no, I think it's the way Alaska. Maybe I'm just thinking of Alaska's system, where I think they did like essentially they have like primaries, but it's still ranked choice voting primaries. But they basically take the top 3 or 4, and then those 3 or 4 go on to the general.
Is it a jungle primary so that all candidates from all parties are on the primary, or is it that there's a Republican primary? Because that's another one. I'm
pretty sure they did open for like the initial primaries, but then they take like the top.
I feel
it
weird.
May have been 5, but I want to say like that first round kind of like limited, and I may be misremembering, but I think that's kind of how they did.
Gotcha. I think the argument for ranked choice voting is a couple fold. I think one. Okay, so I think there's 2 things in play to kind of clarify, at least in my theory of the game here, is that you could still theoretically have a primary that is, quote, the current system. And so if the Democrats and the Republicans and any other parties that hit the threshold to have a official party status want to do a primary for the candidate that they're going to put on the ballot, they can still do that in the normal style. Or they can do it in the ranked choice style, however they want to do. Because one of the things that we learned from Chris Davis, you got your mention, you're welcome. One of the things we learned from Chris Davis is that the primaries are just a service that the Election Commission does for the parties. It is not a service for me and you, the citizen. It's supposed to be that this is a way for the parties to collect their membership's thoughts on an issue, and that issue being who gets to run for the seat. It's not an election. It's
a poll.
It's an official Republican Party poll or official Democratic Party poll that the Election Commission administers on their behalf, not on our behalf, not on the state's behalf, on the party's behalf. And so on a ranked choice system, if they still want to do those as parties, they can. So that then they say, okay, well, this is the Republican going on to the general, this is the Democrat going on to the general through our primary process. But if it's ranked choice voting, anybody who runs as an independent or another party at play or whatever, they get to put their name in the hat. And then when it gets to election day, let's say we have the 2 parties put their 2 official candidates on, some guy who was running as a Democrat, but the Democrats didn't like or whatever, and so he ran as an independent, some other independent, some libertarian, whatever, it doesn't matter. We got 5 people on it. Here's your ballot. Rank these people 1 through 5. That's it. No primary past that, no ballot reduction past that, because the primary, you can do ballot reduction primaries, which is what a jungle primary, which is what you're kind of explaining in the Alaska thing is that 30 people run for the seat. We do a primary. We take the top 4. So we get down to a reasonable number of people that can to pay attention to, because if we have 20 people trying to run, it's too much. We can't, we're not, there's no way that the public and the candidates for that matter can get their ideas in and out, and people can have an understanding of who these people are if we have 20 people running for a seat. So we do a reduction primary first. And so that's what it sounds like the Alaska system is that you're saying.
I think that's how they do it.
So they're doing a reduction primary so that for the last couple months of a race, we can make it a little bit more serious. We can have sit-down conversations. We could do maybe a debate between 3 or 4 people instead of 25 people. But either way, you get to that final ballot, and that's it. There's no more reductions. We're just literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pick who you want, who you don't want, and so on and so forth. And then whoever wins. And first, or not just wins. Whoever has, you have to get a majority of the votes, period. And so you pull the ballots, you count the ballots for each person, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That if that first place person doesn't have 50% of the votes, you drop the 5th place person from it, and whoever had the 5th place person as their 1, their number 2s go into play. And then you go through that, and if that first place person still doesn't have 50%, you drop the 4th place person, and whoever the 4th place people had for 2, their second pick goes into play, and then you count the 1, 2, 3, and then when you get over 50%, that person wins. It's the only way to do it. It's the best way to do it, and it's the most efficient way to do it. That's why ranked choice is what I would like to see nationally and locally and everything in between. That's how we fix. That's step one to me on how we fix some of our major issues. I think ranked choice would be the number one biggest functional change to our politics across the board if we could get ranked choice voting in place sooner than later. Whew. That was a rant. I apologize. No, I don't. That's an important rant. I think after that, I think with that, I don't know. If I was going to rank, it's either that or voter participation. And whether it's your compulsory voting model or... I don't know how to do, like, we've got to, I think number one, I think we've got, like, you know, I can, like, this is a Rogan thing. This is an original idea or anything, but, like, Rogan jokes about it all the time. He's like, I can do my banking over my phone. I can send my friend $10,000 right now on my phone, but I can't vote.
Right.
You know, it's like, I think we have the technology to make this a little easier. I think we could build an app that's secure, that has some sort of system in place to verify and stuff like that. We could do something to make it a little easier to vote. A whole lot easier to vote, which I'd still argue it's super easy to vote as is, especially here in Knoxville. But we could make it even easier to where, like, you have no excuse. Like, it's just, the app only works on the day of, but you can be in your couch, you can be sitting on the bus on the way to work, you can be on your break at work, you can be taking a shit, and you can get your voting done. I don't know.
It sounds like a good idea. I just see too many.
It's a little scary too.
I
agree. We were talking about Dominion, but Dominion developers. But Dominion, you know, that was the thing about the question on the Dominion voting systems. There was a kid or whatever. Was it Dominion voting systems? Did a kid hack their system for funnies? It was one of the voting machine systems. This was a while ago. This is like 2014 or something like that. Like, he hacked their systems just for fun. Like, because that's what good hackers do. They don't do it because it's out of malice, just to see if they can.
I know there's, like, one of the major companies that, like, they have a thing, like, every year where they, like, invite people to
try
find
to hack it. Yeah,
to find the holes in it.
Yeah, not dissimilar to our MI6 or whatever thing we were talking about last week.
Kinda, not really, but yeah.
Well, it's just they put that thing out to the public as a way to test themselves,
recruit,
right, or whatever. Right,
it's not test themselves. That's to recruit more people. It's like, did you figure this out? Like,
right. If you figured this out, you're pretty.
We like how smart you are. Please come talk to us.
We're going to do a babackground check on you real quick and look into whether you're a trustworthy person.
Right.
But yeah, we'd like you to come work for us, for sure. I don't know. I don't know. But something like voter participation and ranked choice. Those two things, I think, changed the game.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I was joking about it a couple weeks ago. Like, I want to run Max against Briggs, and I've been trying to figure out what to run him on. And I think one of the things that would be an interesting one, because it's such a volatile issue, especially here locally, is when people get onto him about abortion. I think the political answer, if I was going to run for office in Knoxville, I think my answer as a politician would be, I'm going to advocate that we make a ballot initiative so that you guys can make that decision. Because it doesn't really matter what I think about it. I think this is something that needs to go to you guys directly. That would be my answer to that question. Because it's such a polarizing issue, and at least in Briggs District, I bet you it's a loser if you say yes, I'm pro-abortion on any level. Even if you are, the way to not answer that question, be like, I want to put that in your hands. If you elect me to be a senator for you here in Tennessee to replace Mr. Briggs, I'm going to put a bill into place that is demanding that on a non-standard election cycle, we do a ballot initiative. That's the non-standard election cycle is a separate little thing, but there's a reason for that, is my point.
Yeah.
I'll take that back. I will make it a thing so that you get to vote on it. And then the caveat that you do when you're in the state Senate with all the other Republicans is you say, we'll do it on a non-standard cycle. So none of you will be on the ballot when this thing goes on. We'll do it on city cycles. We'll do it on an odd year cycle so that no races are on the ballot, so we don't have any down ballot issues. So when the populace of Tennessee who votes for abortion comes out and votes for it, they don't get to go down ballot and vote for Democrats too. That's how you sell that to Republicans in the state. I have a winning answer. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, might work.
But I'm just saying, as a constituent, if you're a constituent and I'm doing it, like, if I'm running for office and you're the constituent, you come up to me and it's like, well, where are you on abortion? Like, you know what I think? I think you need to make that decision. I don't think I'm capable of making that decision. I think we need to make it a ballot initiative. I'm going to go You elect me. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna make that. I'm gonna pass a bill that makes that a voting issue where you guys get to vote on it. It's a good way to not answer the question,
Right.
but it's also the right answer to me. It's such a controversial issue. You guys fucking pick it. Don't put it on me. Don't make me risk my career and future in this game to take a stance on an issue that's honestly not important to me, but it's so super important to you guys that I'm just going to let you guys make that decision.
It makes some sense, but also I would be a little apprehensive of a politician. As much as I would appreciate that kind of like open-mindedness, but I would also kind of like wonder like where the scruples lie. Like,
I would love that
Do you
answer.
have an agreement of anything? Like, do you have a thing, or are you just gonna? I love that you want to vote with the majority every time, but
I would love the answer of being
that's a pretty obvious thing for any politician to be like, I want whatever most people want.
I think
that's wonderful.
I think you're framing away. If it's a specifically controversial issue, you guys need to pick that. There's too many things that you're electing me to do to try to make a super decision on a super issue. So let me make all these little small decisions like we talk about on here all the time, all the little stuff, Department of Ag stuff, Department of Revenue stuff, all these different little rules and re-upping this and approving budget for that kind of stuff. Let me take care of all that stuff and trust me to take care of those things. Trust me because I'm a business owner. Trust me because I'm, in Max's case, I'm a Marine. Like, trust me because of those things to take care of all this little shit that you don't care about. But the things that you do care about, I want you guys to make the decision on that. And if it's something significant that has a lot of public conversation and a lot of back and forth on both sides, I want you guys to have that and put that out in public. And you guys talk about that publicly, and you guys go advocate for or against it, and we can put a ballot initiative in place where you guys get to make that decision. That's how I'd answer that question. God damn it, I am a politician.
Yeah, but I could see it wouldn't be too hard to find more and more little things.
Sure,
where you could make the argument that
would that be a bad thing? If that was like the generic play, I could see how this one might be something that the people need to make a decision on, not me.
Well, I mean, then you've got a crazy, referendum on an off cycle, which it's good that the politicians will be kind of insulated from that, but all of a sudden you're looking at 30, 40 possibly different things that people are going in. That's what I'm saying. It wouldn't be hard to find enough small issues that were voted on that you could find that did go into more areas that.
I think as far as I can tell from stuff that's coming up in this cycle, abortion's already settled, so it's not going to be on it. But if we're going to add that one as a new one, I think there's only maybe a couple in this coming up cycle of the 6,000 fucking bills they pass a year, which we always joke about how it's too many.
All right.
I think of all those that are going on that I think could and I haven't looked through what's coming up officially by any stretch, but if we're going to look at all the ones that are going on, I would argue less than 5, and that's if we add abortion in because it's not on the conversation's sake in this coming up session. I think it would be pot law. I think there's enough confusion and back and forth on pot law, and that might be not fair. That might just be because I'm in it. It might not actually be that controversial of an issue. And this is where your point comes. This is where I think your point is real, is that it is a huge issue to me. And I sure as shit don't want Briggs making that decision for me because he's an idiot on this issue. But it may not be that big of an issue statewide that it would reach that level to me.
All right.
I think if we added an abortion one, I think the voucher one, that would be another one. I think the voucher one, being the top item of Governor Lee's agenda this year and being such a controversial issue it didn't get passed last year, I think that one would reach the threshold to me of let's just make this a public one. You guys vote on it. Leave us out of this. I think it's a good idea. Let me tell you why I think it's a good idea. Because I'm Governor Lee and I want this to pass. I think it's a great idea. He did a fucking ad for it. I sent that to you. I think I text that one to you.
I don't remember that one.
I don't know if maybe I didn't send it to you. It was straight up Governor Lee ad for vouchers.
I'm failing to think of a good. Kind of think of one. I don't think it was last legislative session, but maybe the one before, and it may have even been a Massey bill, but it had to do kind of with police camera surveillance, and I think at the time when they
sorry people
when they initially proposed it, it had to do with like state troopers that were on like the side of the highway, and it had to do with them recording license plates as cameras that were passing by or cars that were passing by. That was kind of the one that was it kind of sounds like a small bill at the time, but then you could expand that to more state laws, or if there was a county that wanted to expand water rights or kind of discharge rights or whatever, that would be changing state laws, that may be only kind of affecting that one county at that time, but then that changing state laws affects everyone else's, any kind of factory that's on a river or farmer that's next to a river.
Wait, I'm sorry.
I was trying to think of examples that kind of seem like a semi-innocuous bill to start out with.
Good word.
But it actually, expands out to affecting more and more people. And also kind of what you were saying, that, you kind of have those niche things that, affect either major
it's very important to
parts
me.
of parts of business.
You could figure out a threshold. Like, you could figure out a metric to make that, to call that, to put that threshold in play. Like,
you could find enough things to where, like, well, this would affect this industry, and that industry accounts for X number of dollars
but make
it
an engagement threshold. If this bill receives X number of contacts to their state legislation or the mayor's office or the governor's office or whatever, if X number of emails or phone calls or text messages or whatever through the official channel by the senators and whatever, if the issue hits this many in the threshold, and make it a large number, then it maybe not automatically, but at least then that would be a way to reduce the number. Like, if it's an issue that 10 people really, really, really fucking lose their shit over, but the other however many million people in the state of Tennessee just kind of don't pay attention to, then it doesn't reach that threshold to get done. I think there's a way you could put a number, a metric on it that made sense.
I was just thinking it might be kind of hard, though.
It would be, but I'm just saying, though, like, but I think that would be good governance, though, Like, I think that'd be a good thing for me and you. The normal Joe out here, like, this issue is big. This issue is major. Like, abortion being the simple one. This is a major fucking issue. And most importantly to me, like, that one specifically, is that the legislation and the polling is not the same. And I understand that there's that people I mean, the reality of it is that there's a lot of reasons why you elect somebody. And there's a lot of reasons, there's a lot of things that you want out of your government and why you're making a pick on a certain person or not. And abortion might be one of the reasons you make that pick, but it's not the only one. But if the public polling and the public policy are so off, I feel like there's some obligation to put a little bit more effort into figuring out what's right and wrong. And not just saying, nope, we're right, we already did it, we already got this in the bag, we're moving on. And I think abortion's the easiest one to see the example of that on. Because I think, pot's another one on that. Like, the public polling on pot.
I mean, even the abortion thing would be hard to be put into a question to give people an answer on, because there's...
Figure it out. Like, you could figure it out. You're right, though, because in a Republican state like Tennessee, who doesn't want it...
the major things are like the two, like, kind of major exceptions for, incest or rape.
Right. And I think that
so
would be
you'd almost have to split those up. Like, would you be okay on this or this?
And I think
once you add in more people, or once you add in more
options,
I guess, into a singular question, you have.
I think you're right. I think the problem.
Like, well, I agree with one of those things.
I think the
as
rule
an
would have to
exemption,
be.
So I'm still going to say yes. I'm for this.
I think the rule would have to be that it's got to be a single item. If it's a multifaceted one, it has to be. Do you think? Again, wording the question being complicated, but it's like
that's what I was thinking.
Literally, it's got to be like, should Tennessee allow exceptions to abortion for rape and incest? Yes or no? That's the question. And the furtherance would be the real game that the real issue that the legislature would have to play is that, okay, we could slow play this and say, all right, we can make this a 10-year process for the reality of what Tennesseans want to get into play, and just do the most simplistic version and say the state of Tennessee wants to vote on abortion. Here's the question: do you believe we should have exceptions? Yes or no? The overwhelming majority of Tennesseans obviously will vote yes. We believe there's exceptions to be in place. The legislature makes a law. Now we have exceptions in place. The controversy doesn't end because that's just the beginning for most people. And so then 2 years later, the legislature would be forced to do another version of it, and it would have to step it up and step it up and step it up. If the legislature was good and intentional, they would try to do the first question as the most logical question, like the most reasonable, realistic question of what's at play. Whether it's a 12-week ban or a 16-week ban, that's probably what Tennesseans are about at. That's where it would get tight, I think. You say the state of Tennessee will allow abortions up to the 12-week mark, yes or no? And I think that would put the conversation more or less to bed if that was an overwhelming win for yes or no. Actually, I think either way it'd still be in play. But I think if that's the baseline and it's moving four weeks either way is the next version of the vote, that's not a. It's does that make sense? That was a weird little.
Kind of, yeah.
Wondering. I'm just saying, like the legislature could, if we put a system in place that would force them to put a ballot initiative in place, they could word that one ballot initiative in a way to do the tiniest increment towards what the population actually wants, of being exceptions only, and the population would say absolutely yes, but that's not enough. And then the next cycle around, when they put it on the next ballot, because they're forced to, because the system that we're discussing, then it's 6 weeks. And then the population overwhelmingly says yes, but that's not enough. And then 2 years later on the next ballot, because it's still that big of an issue, it's forced by the metric to be in play. Okay, well, we're going to go from 6 to 8 weeks, 8 to 10. Like you could do it incrementally, it'd just take forever. And so if the legislation is good and trying to actually serve the people, they're going to try to make the first question the most clear question on where do you want to put it, and I think it would be somewhere between the 12 and 20 week range would be the reality. So, like, if you're good and you're trying to just say, okay, fine, we want to put this issue to bed, 16 weeks, yes or no, and then after that, I think that would calm down. I think that would calm the population that you wouldn't hit the metric moving forward at 16 weeks. That would be my guess.
It's a possibility.
But if they were going to be dicks about it, it would take them. They could slow play it up to like 15, 16 cycles, which would be 30 years to get there.
And be like, okay, yeah, we got your the poll we put out.
Right. Well, I'm just saying.
It's going to be, we weren't able to get to changing the state laws on this, so we're going to hope to do it next session.
Right. And so they could be assholes about it. But still, I think over time that would come into that would come into forcing a normalcy where it would make it more responsive to the actual public good. Because what you really want to do if you're in office is get this thing out of the way and be done with it. You don't want to keep fighting over it. You don't want to keep running on it or running against it. You want to be like, look, you guys made the decision. You guys put it to bed. We're done. It's not my fault. Your neighbors did this. If you're pissed off about this, you're pissed off at your neighbors, not me. You elected me to come in here and represent you. Your neighbors and everybody in the state of Tennessee made this decision. You can be mad at them all you want, but we can't change the decision. That's their thoughts. As a politician, that gives you fucking carte blanche that you don't have to deal with it anymore. That's what you want on a super controversial issue.
To some. I mean, you're still going to have those constituents that say, hey, we chose you to go in there to speak our will.
Right, and some politicians are going to run on, I'm going to put this issue back on the table, but when there's not enough, when the metrics can't get hit, you're going to lose because you didn't do the will because that's what they elected you to do. And it's like, well, it's not my fault. I tried to do what you told me to do, but there's not enough other people like you that want what you want. And so we can't keep going down this road. And you can vote me out. That's fine. But the next person you vote in is not going to do any better on this topic than I did. I tried.
So it would be like the state election commission that would devise this kind of questions?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I think it would have. I haven't fleshed it out that deeply, right. But yeah, I think it would be something where the legislature would have to put whatever the same as this current ballot initiative is. But I think the catch to make it more palatable to the current will be to do it on the off cycle, because then the Republican who is running to keep my seat doesn't have to run on a ballot that includes this question that's going to bring out a bunch of my opponent's followers.
Right.
So what else you got, Fred? I don't want to mess up this week. Last week I went and hid news of weird and forgot to ask you. Well, didn't ask you if there's anything else, and then you had something else right before.
No, nothing crazy. I think we mentioned it before. I don't know if you saw that case. I guess finally came to conclusion in France. It's a big, huge sexual assault case.
No, I don't remember.
Oh damn! I think it's over 40 people just got found guilty. I thought we mentioned it on the show, but it's.
We might. I don't know.
I'm not sure of their age, but it was basically a woman whose husband, just for years, possibly decades, drugged her and just let his friends come have their way with her.
That's fucked up. Hang that guy from the flagpole.
Finally went to trial. I think he even admitted guilt, but I think it's 30 or 40 people just got found guilty of getting anywhere from range up to 20 years in prison for it.
That's fucked up. Yeah,
Good thing, but it was fucking crazy.
The only other one that I had is there was this interesting story from a couple of different places.
Yeah, I'd seen that before.
Locally, this is from the Hellbender Press. Helene, after weeks of dredging, CSX received stop work order from, help me out, Nolichucky?
Yeah, Nolichucky.
Nolichucky Gorge Railroad destroyed by tropical storm. So, if I'm gathering the story correctly here, is that there's a CSX rail line that runs through the Nolichucky Gorge, and that in the storm it got washed out, and so CSX is in there trying to put their railroad back up. And one of the ways to get fill dirt and rocks and aggregate, if you will, is they put a barge out and they pull up rocks and dirt and whatever from the bottom of the river and put it on land to dry and then build their railroad on top of it. Apparently, that was no bueno, and they'd been doing it for a while, and they got a please stop request and kept doing it, and then the Department of Environment and Conservation from Tennessee and the Army Corps came in and said, fucking stop now. Which is neat. The railroads usually don't lose those fights. We'll see what happens as it continues, but that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, it sounds like they were up against a couple different industries.
Also, apparently the Hellbender Press also released broke a story on, oops, wrong button, on the Eastern Hellbender Salamander has been upgraded to
threatened or something.
Yeah, to an official endangered species list. So now some of the things can kick in for habitat and or pollution issues can actually do stuff.
Yeah, but it's those regulations that are hurting industry. Why do we care about the salamander?
To stop things. I don't really care.
They're not keeping jobs.
No, they're not. Well, I mean, these people at Hellbender get jobs, but
so they're manufacturing a crisis to profit.
I mean, I don't know what this I take a little issue with land use stuff, but I mean, if you're pouring shit into the waterway that's a public waterway, then yeah, I don't have no issue with that. That's not to me. I don't see that as I guess technically that is regulatory, bureaucracy at play or whatever. But it is the responsibility of the public to protect the public, and if a private industry is damaging the public, then I don't have an issue with that.
Say that last sentence again.
If the public is protecting the public from a private industry, I don't have an issue with that.
Okay, so I thought you were saying if a private industry is polluting the water, I don't have a problem with that. No,
because that's public. I mean, if we agree that the waterway is public domain, that is all of our stuff, we have a right to protect that. Just like if I own the waterway as an individual, I have the right to protect that too, right? Theoretically. I'm just saying, okay, a more simplistic way to put it, I own my house and I own the land my house is on, right? And if my neighbor's doing something that's at his whatever he's doing on his property is leaching into mine, I have a right to some compensation for the damage he's doing to my property.
Agreed.
It's the same thing. It's just we what we call public if you look at what we consider public spaces and you put that in a private lens, is if that was a private company's thing, whatever it is, river, park, whatever it is, if I own that as a private company, do I have the right to manage what does and doesn't happen there? Absolutely. Why wouldn't I? Now it gets a little more complicated because the agreement of the public and what the public is doing is not necessarily the same thing. Hence our prior conversation about abortion. But I don't see that as regulatory waste shit. There is some of that can be, and there's some of that that's overprotection, and there's some of that that's just, it's hard to define. But sure, I don't disagree with the idea. If I'm dumping shit down the toilet that goes into the waterway, and that waterway damages something that the public wants, then I have some responsibility to either cease doing that or remediate the damages that I'm doing. Yes, I agree with that. As a private citizen, I should be taxed with whatever it is to remedy the situation that I have caused.
You should be taxed with it?
Yes, if I caused the situation.
If you caused it, gotcha.
Yes. Now, not me as an individual. That's theoretically the argument. Why should you and I as individuals be taxed to fix a problem that a different individual caused? That doesn't make sense. There is some kind of that individual that caused that damage, whatever that damage. Whatever.
At times they're kind of forced to,
right?
If
and it becomes
like sake. They were like, "Oh, sorry, we can't afford to pay anything anymore. We're just shutting down."
Right, but you shouldn't be able to continue operations. If you can't fix what it is that's doing the damages, then fucking stop. It's not our problem.
Right.
The continuation of your industry, and I guess I could see where some of that gets complicated with your industry is polluting by nature, but it's a necessity that we have whatever it is that you're producing from your company. Whether it's a mining, oil, drilling kind of thing. I could see where it gets a little bit more murky in that kind of.
A lot of it gets murky when you're talking about water, when you get down to literally how they measure it in parts per million.
Right.
When they're talking about it's below 3 million parts per million or whatever. It's yeah, but if I keep drinking that water for a year, I'm now poisoned. They're yeah, well, just don't drink it for a year. It's not that poisoned. It's only just barely poisoned.
Yeah. No, I think I think I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. And I like an example is I got a friend who owns a building, and it used to be a tire shop, right? And so it was a tire mechanics place. Mostly they changed tires, but they did oil changes and some other shit like that there too. It was vacant for a lot of time. He bought it with a couple other properties, and has done a bunch of work on it and is turning it into a restaurant. And by city ordinance, a restaurant is what they call a special polluter.
Is it the grease?
I guess, but but his stormwater, he is obliged on that piece of property before he's allowed to put a tenant or open that particular building to a tenant, or whether he wants to open it in his own business. But to get that business open, whether it's his or somebody else's, but as the landlord, he is required to put to run a line to have a catch on his property for stormwater and run it through some sort of catch before it hits the city stormwater system.
Okay.
Probably $250,000 job.
Yeah.
And only because he wants to put a restaurant in there. Different business in there, it's not the same thing. And I get it, but at the same time, it used to be a fucking tire shop changing oil and shit too.
Why does the restaurant? Why does that change it?
Because that's what puts it in a special one of the special pollutant categories is restaurants.
Huh.
Which all restaurants are required a grease trap.
Right.
And that's before it gets into
that was my initial thought.
But the restaurant part doesn't, it's not the internal water that's in question, it's the stormwater, which is why it gets weird to me.
Right.
That's where I get confused on it. It's like stormwater. So literally it rains, the rain falls on the roof, it goes in the gutter runs that water out into the parking lot. The water runs across the parking lot into wherever it goes. Why does he need to catch that water and force it into, which actually it currently goes into a different properties catch and stormwater system. But that's not good enough. He has to have it on his own property.
Right.
It's really weird. He's also kind of crazy, so he might be making shit up. But it actually doesn't sound unreasonable. Like it sounds unreasonable, but it doesn't.
There's a lot of things that, essentially any kind of new construction, you've now all of a sudden have to adhere to any kind of new existing
like
codes.
Like my septic issue that I had here.
Right.
It's now an option. You have to use the option that's available to you.
Right.
And so, again, like I kind of get it and I kind of don't. And it's like we've got to figure out a way to make this functional because that's too much money. Like $250,000 is a lot of money. Apparently, it's not a lot of money. You can put lights on your house for a couple years for that. Anyway, let's get weird. Actually, I lied before we get weird. University of Tennessee is going to Knoxville. This is kind of weird. University of Knoxville is going up to Columbus, Ohio to play some football tonight. And we're a 7-point dog, which kind of surprised me. So I took Tennessee. I think Tennessee, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not going to say. I took the +7. I don't think we're going to get our asses kicked. But I don't know that we're going to win either. I think we can win. I think we're capable of winning. But have you seen some of the funny stuff that's going on?
No.
Apparently, a bunch of UT fans have went into the Apple Maps and changed the name of the Horseshoe, Columbus Stadium, into Neyland North. And so if you go on Apple Maps, I don't know if it's gotten fixed yet, but if you went on Apple Maps and put the address in or go on the map and zoom into the stadium in Columbus, it says Neyland North on the dot.
Weird. How do they even do that?
There's ways. I know how to do some of that stuff. Yeah. And then they also did the one that I don't like that I think's fucking kid shit, and it better not happen. If we go and win that game, I'll be super excited. But if they storm the field and tear a goalpost down and put it into their river, we're a bunch of assholes, and I will hate us. I will hate our fan base forever if they do that.
I don't think there's a river there.
There's a river right next to the stadium.
Is it?
Not very far. It's very close.
Huh.
It's not as close as the Tennessee River is to real Neyland, but there is a river nearby.
Yeah, I remember we went to that restaurant that was like right next to a little river or something there.
Right, but so there was a map circulating of how to get the goalpost out of the stadium and into their river. Tennessee fans, do not, just don't. I'll be super excited if we win. I might throw a beer can off my deck in excitement because I'll be losing my shit. But do not storm the field and do not take the goalpost down. All that does is says we are assholes and we don't deserve to be there.
I was asking my dad. I thought it was an article a few days ago that was kind of encouraging locals to buy tickets because ticket prices were going down. I think I saw like more local fans or more Tennessee fans had bought more tickets.
So one of the things I was talking to some people about this earlier this week because I was laughing about the Neyland North thing. And so, what's the number one job of the coach of Ohio State? Number one.
The football team.
Right, but what's the number one job as a coach to do?
I don't know. What's the
answer? There's only one game that matters.
Win the championship?
Beat Michigan.
Okay.
And this guy has been there 4 years and has lost to Michigan 3 times. This year's was especially bad because Michigan is an especially bad version of Michigan this year. But they lost to Michigan again this year. And so the theory, at least, is that Ohio State fans are pissed off that they can't beat Michigan to save their lives, and they want to get the coach gone. And a way to show your disappointment is to not go to the game.
Huh.
And so apparently a lot of Ohio State fans, out of spite for the coach, are selling their tickets. To which the athletic director for Ohio State has come out a couple of times in public statements saying, please stop selling your tickets to Tennessee fans. If you're going to sell your tickets, at least have them to be Ohio State fans.
Interesting. Which,
for the athletic director, like, his job's on the line here, too. If he doesn't fire this coach, if they lose this game, like, there's a lot of stuff, like, for their internal politics. If you're the athletic director and you hired this coach and all of your fan base hates this coach because he can't beat Michigan, well, if you're not going to fire him, we're going to get you fired and have somebody replace you that will fire him.
You think there'd still be enough Ohio State fans that would just buy up those tickets anyway. But
you would think so, too. I mean, you're in the fucking playoff.
Right.
Come on, people. But, and then the other one that's going around that I like, that this one's nice. I like this one. This one's fun. There is the seating chart for Ohio State's football stadium that says if you're a Tennessee fan and this is your seat, you wear orange or you wear white. So they've got it checkerboarded so that if enough Tennessee fans are there, you could actually we'll have a UT checkerboard in the Ohio State Stadium.
Interesting. So
we'll see how all this plays out.
And the horseshoe.
I apologize. Not so weird.
Baby pigs get Christmas pardon from Florida mayor and a Cuban twist on White House turkey tradition.
Ooh, I like it. It sounds fun. Tell me more. Come on. So, is there some sort of Christmas tradition for some sort of pork product in the Cuban community in South Florida? Is that what I'm hearing?
Let's see here.
It's standard to do a roast pig for Christmas in that neighborhood.
This might be a Christmas Eve thing. Let's see here. Public pardons for 2 piglets were granted by the mayor of Miami-Dade County. And a 7-year South Florida riff on the White House tradition of pardoning 2 turkeys at Thanksgiving.
Right. We pardon the turkeys so they don't get butchered and eaten. I get that part. But so these 2 piglets, is it a piglet? Like you roast a piglet?
4-month-old pigs.
I mean, that's a small pig. So, like, if you're pardoning the piglet, that means the piglet was going to be the meal.
Let's see here. If not for the pardons, they could have joined the thousands of their kind that will be barbecued whole on Tuesday in underground pits on spits, or in special metal boxes by families in Cuba, South Florida, and elsewhere.
Okay.
They will become the lechon asado.
Why are they doing piglets then?
I don't know. Maybe it's a veal thing. I don't know. Maybe it's kind of like that.
No, because like I know that dish. The what did you say? What was it called again?
Lechon asada.
Yeah,
asado.
We did that with my Mexican friend a couple years ago. It was a great time. And he had the special metal box. And so it's a special metal box. You put a whole pig in it, and you put the lid on the box, and it's kind of like a Dutch oven, like those cast iron Dutch ovens you use at camp,
right?
Where you put the whole thing in the fire, and then you put a bunch of coals on top. Well, this thing you don't put in the fire; you just put a bunch of coals on top, and so it cooks from the top. But you put the whole pig in there.
There was nothing underneath as well. No heat source underneath.
No, it's just this. It's like it's a wood box with this one, the one that he got or has. I don't know if he still has it.
Wood or metal box?
It's a wood box, and the inside is metal lined.
Oh, okay.
And so you put the pig in there. It's like stainless steel. You put the pig in it, and then you put the lid on, which is metal, and then you cover the lid with charcoal, or like with hot charcoal, and then you add new charcoal, and it's like an 8-hour thing, and it takes forever to cook. But then you take the lid off that motherfucker, and there's a big old roasted pig inside. But you do that with an adult pig, not a piglet.
Yeah, I don't know if these were actually. Eventually they would have, but I don't know when they actually would slaughter them.
Right, but I'm saying like when the presidential turkey pardon is for adult Jake turkeys.
Right.
Because that is a turkey that is at the age and size on when it would be slaughtered to become a Thanksgiving meal. So the piglet part is the only question I have. Anyway, fun story. You got one more? Yeah. Messing with you.
Let's see here. We got a Christmas one or a library? Oh, a couple Christmas.
Oh, I guess we have to do Christmas one. We won't have another show until after Christmas. Merry Christmas, all you people who celebrate Christmas.
NORAD's Santa Tracker was a Cold War morale boost. Now it attracts millions of kids.
I've got one on my phone.
You have the tracker?
I've had my phone for it's an app that uses NORAD's thing or whatever that synthesizes it or whatever.
I remember tracking it with the kids years ago.
Yeah,
we're like, look, they're over here. They're in Paris. Look how fast he's moving.
I believe I still have it on the phone. Right meow. Right. I might have to re-download it. You know how Apple puts it in your cloud when you haven't used an app in a long time.
They had a phone cover. Each year, at least 100,000 kids call into the North American Aerospace Defense Command.
Ooh.
To inquire about Santa's location. Millions more follow online in 9 languages from English to Japanese.
I like it. That's one of my favorite little things.
Let's see here. There are screams and giggles and laughter, said Bob Summers, a civilian contractor and NORAD volunteer.
When the kids call, that's their response. Santa is in New York City. Ah, like that.
See, the feeling questions like, when is Santa coming to my house, and am I on the naughty or nice list?
That's funny. Why would they? What is their answer? Do they have an official answer if they ask if they're on the naughty or nice list? They probably just say nice list.
Let's see here. It started with a child's accidental phone call in 1955. The Colorado Springs newspaper printed a Sears advertisement that encouraged children to call Santa, listing a phone number. A boy called, but he reached the Continental Air Defense Command, now NORAD, a joint U.S. and Canadian effort to spot potential enemy attacks. Tensions were growing with the Soviet Union, along with anxieties about nuclear war. Let's see here. Air Force colonel picked up the phone, picked up an emergency-only, quote-unquote, red phone, and was greeted by a tiny voice that began to recite a Christmas wish list. He went out a little bit, and he takes a breath, and then, hey, you're not Santa, Shoup told the Associated Press in 1999. Realized explanation would be lost on the youngster. Soup summoned a deep, jolly voice and replied, "Ho, ho, 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 yes, I am Santa Claus. Have you been a good boy?"
Well played, sir. Yeah. Human beings are generally awesome.
That's funny. Then we got thousands of Santas and a few Grinches hit the streets for annual SantaCon bar crawls.
Nice. I like it. We need to do one of those. I've got a Christmas event coming up next year in the holler, so be on the lookout for that, everybody. Anyway, last call, Fred. Anything else before we go?
I think that's it.
All right. That's the show, everybody. Almost an agreement. Did a show. Almost an agreement at gmail.com. I totally didn't wait for the outro song to do its right part. Favorite podcast writer, almostagreement.com, almostagreement@gmail.com if you want to email me and tell me how stupid I am about my no privacy for elected officials idea and other. Go to your favorite podcast writer, like, friend, follow, share, text us to your friends. Do whatever you can to help spread the word and keep us doing what we're doing. We'll see you guys right before New Year's, and we'll have a New Year's Eve show. Not officially New Year's Eve show, but we'll call it a New Year's Eve show anyway. We'll drink champagne at what we call midnight, even though it might not be really midnight. We'll do whatever we have to do to make it fun. Almost here, everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you guys soon.